Gravity Falls only ran for 2 seasons. It had 40 episodes total, and yet more than a decade after the final episode aired in February of 2016, fans are still quoting it to each other, still tattooing the lines on their arms, still whispering them into the dark when no one's around. There is a town in Oregon that does not exist on any map. There is a triangle who sold gold and reality at the same time. There is a great uncle who built a doomsday device to bring his twin brother home. There is a little girl who chose love over logic with the universe in the balance. There is a boy in a pine tree hat who wrote a final letter that made grown adults cry on couches. There is an old man with a beard full of raccoons who once invented a machine to forget. There's a sock with painted on eyes that became somehow the most terrifying image in cartoon history. And under it all, there is a voice that keeps coming back. No matter how many years pass, no matter how much you grow up, whispering the same 5 words over and over again until you can't tell if it's a memory or a warning. Tonight, we walk through every quote that lives rent-free in the heads of Gravity Falls fans, one at a time, the way you'd walk through a museum after closing. We're starting with the very first words ever spoken in the show. A sleepy town called Gravity Falls. The opening of Tourist Trapped drops you into the middle of a chase. A golf cart, 2 kids, a creature pursuing them through the woods. Dipper, in voiceover, says he knows what you're thinking. He says, "Rest assured, there is a perfectly logical explanation," and then he rewinds the whole thing. The lines that follow are, for a lot of fans, the lines that built the show. "My name is Dipper. The girl about to puke is my sister Mabel. You may be wondering what we're doing in a golf cart fleeing from a creature of unimaginable horror. Rest assured, there's a perfectly logical explanation. Let's rewind. It all began when our parents decided we could use some fresh air. They shipped us up north to a sleepy town called Gravity Falls, Oregon, to stay at our great uncle's place in the woods. Fans will tell you the genius of this opening is in 2 words. Sleepy Town. Because of course, it's not sleepy. Of course, Gravity Falls is the loudest town in fiction. It hides cults inside its history museum and gnomes inside its trees, and a portal to another dimension under its tourist trap. But the joke of the first episode is that Dipper still believes for a few minutes that he's been dropped into the world's most boring summer, and the show never quite loses that feeling. Every episode is a sleepy town hiding something underneath. Every line of dialogue is doing the same trick. Even the title is doing it. Gravity Falls. Sounds like a postcard. Read it backwards. Fans will tell you, and you start to see it differently. The other line nobody forgets from that opening is Mabel's. She bursts into frame, braces glinting, and announces, "My name is Mabel, but you can call me the girl of your dreams." The Tourist Trapped pilot also gives us the very first cliffhanger in the series. Mabel, in the back of the royal employee's golf cart, leans forward and whispers, "Take me with you." The fandom has clipped that 2-second moment hundreds of times. It's a throwaway gag. It's also the whole Mabel character in one shot. A girl who will say something unhinged in a soft, sweet voice and mean it. And we're hinting at it already. The thing that comes back later, the thing that grows, because the second Mabel says, "Take me with you," she's setting up the question the rest of the show will ask. Who do you trust to take you somewhere? A stranger? A brother? A great uncle with a fez and 40 different fake IDs? An old man in a hut who used to be a scientist? A triangle with one eye who promises to make you a star? Trust is the engine of Gravity Falls, and every single one of the quotes we're going to walk through tonight is somehow about that. The real mystery was why anyone came. Dipper keeps narrating. He tells us about Grunkle Stan. He calls him simply that guy. He tells us about the Mystery Shack. He says it was a tourist trap their great uncle had turned his house into. And then he hits the line that's been on 1,000 merchandise posters and Tumblr edits and animated openings. Our uncle had transformed his house into a tourist trap he called the Mystery Shack. The real mystery was why anyone came. Fans cling to this line because it's the first time the show winks at itself. The Mystery Shack is a scam. Stan is a scammer. The whole tourist operation is built on glued together antlers and overpriced snow globes. And Dipper narrating is letting you in on the joke before the show has even technically started. But look at what he says next. He says it looked like it was going to be the same boring routine all summer, until one fateful day. And then the journal happens. The journal is the second character in this opening. It's the thing that turns the sleepy town into a real town. Dipper finds it in the woods, hidden inside a tree. The cover is leather. The hand on the front has 6 fingers, and the words inside change everything. This journal told me there was no one in Gravity Falls I could trust. Fans love to debate which line is the actual thesis of the show. Some say it's that one, trust no one. It's printed on the cover of Journal 3. It's printed on the merch. It's the line a lot of fans get tattooed. It feels like the rule the show plays by. Except it isn't. The show doesn't run on trust no one. The show runs on the exact opposite. The show runs on the question of who you trust when you have every reason not to. Mabel will trust Stan when the countdown hits 10 and the universe is on the line. Stan will trust Mabel to make the call. Dipper will trust Mabel to remember him when Bill possesses his body. Ford will eventually trust Stan with his own mind. Fiddleford will trust Stan and Dipper with the memory gun. Pacifica will trust Dipper with her family's worst secret. Suze will trust Stan to be the father he never had. Trust no one is the warning the journal gives Dipper at the start of the summer. The show is the answer he writes back. Avenge me, kids. By the 3rd episode, Headhunters, the show has figured out something important about Grunkle Stan. The character can be ridiculous and dangerous at the same time. He can be conning tourists out of their money in one scene and asking his great-niece and great-nephew to commit murder in the next. There's a sequence in Headhunters where Stan is mourning his beheaded wax figure. The wax statue of himself, he's treating it like a real corpse. He's planning a funeral. And then when the kids find out who did it, he sends them off with a line that lives in 100 fandom edits. Seems like the kind of thing a responsible parent wouldn't want you doing. Good thing I'm an uncle. Avenge me, kids. Avenge me. The line is funny because it's true. He is an uncle. He has no idea what he's doing as a guardian. He's already letting 2 12-year-olds investigate a murder, and he's framing the whole thing as some kind of Shakespearean blood quest. Avenge me. Like he's Hamlet's father showing up at the parapet. But fans will tell you the line carries something else in it. The thing the show is going to keep doing for 40 episodes. Grunkle Stan has nothing in his life except these kids. He has no children of his own. He has no wife anymore. He has a brother trapped in a portal, and these kids are his second chance. So when he says, good thing I'm an uncle, what he's also saying, in a voice like a paper bag full of gravel, is good thing I get to be this for somebody. Good thing I get to be the irresponsible one. Good thing I get to send you off with an axe to a biker bar and trust you to come back. Avenge me, kids. Avenge me is also a line that hints at something we won't learn for a season and a half. Because by the time we get to A Tale of Two Stans, we will know exactly what Stan has lost. We will know about the brother that disappeared into the portal. We will know that this man has spent 30 years trying to bring back the only person who ever really loved him. So avenge me, kids, sounds like a joke. But there's a man under that joke who has been begging for someone to come find him for 3 decades. It's funny because marriage is terrible. In The Legend of the Gobblewonker, the 2nd episode, Stan tries to do something for the kids. He tries to take them on a family fun day, a bonding trip on the lake. He's reading them jokes from a card book. The joke goes, "My ex-wife still misses me." But her aim is getting better. Stan, want to hear a joke? Okay, here goes. My ex-wife still misses me, but her aim is getting better. Her aim is getting better. You see, it's funny because marriage is terrible. Fans on every Gravity Falls forum have rated this as one of the all-time Stan moments. Not because it's a clever joke. The joke is bad. Stan even knows the joke is bad. He has to explain it. He has to keep beating it. He's standing on a boat with 2 children and another small child, and he's trying to be a fun adult, and the only material he has is misery. And that's the magic of Grunkle Stan. He is one of the most genuinely lonely characters in any kid's show ever made. The cracks show in everything he says. The ex-wife, the marriage, the aim getting better, the little laugh he does after each one. It's a man who has had nobody to tell jokes to for 30 years, suddenly trying out his comedy on two kids who didn't ask for it. And then much later, you find out who his ex-wife actually was. You find out it was Marilyn. You find out the marriage was technically not even legal. You find out the whole thing was probably a con on both sides. And the joke gets darker and funnier and sadder all at the same time. This is what fans mean when they talk about Gravity Falls rewatch value. The jokes don't stop being jokes the second time. They turn into clues. I made lots of robots in my day. The legend of the Gobblewonker also gives us our first real taste of Old Man McGucket. He's not a person yet at this point in the show. He's a gag. He's the local kook. The hillbilly with the white beard who shows up to scream about robots. His big monologue in that episode is one of the longest single takes any character gets in the first season. He starts talking about robots he built, and the more he talks, the more disturbing the list becomes. I made lots of robots in my day, like when my wife left me and I created a homicidal pterodactyl Tron, or when my pal Ernie didn't come to my retirement party and I constructed an 80-ton shame bot that exploded the entire downtown area. Well, time to get back to work on my death ray. Any of you kids got a screwdriver? You laugh at this on the first watch. You laugh because it's absurd. The homicidal pterodactyltron, the shame bot, the screwdriver request. But here's what fans will explain to you in forum after forum, in deep dive after deep dive. McGucket is not who he seems. McGucket is, in fact, the most tragic single character in the entire show. He used to be a brilliant scientist. He helped build the portal that swallowed Ford. He looked into the rift and saw something so terrible, he invented a machine to erase his own brain. The hillbilly gibberish, the robots, the wife who left him, the retirement party nobody came to. All of it is the wreckage of a man who used to be Fiddleford Hadron McGucket. Once you've seen Society of the Blind Eye, you cannot listen to this Gobblewonker monologue the same way again. The pterodactyl Tron, the shame bot, the death ray. These are not jokes anymore. These are the things a broken genius keeps building because he has nothing else left to do. This is the trick the show plays again and again. The first time you watch, McGucket is a gag. The second time, he is the saddest character in the room. We'll come back to him soon. We'll come back to him in the episode where he watches his old tapes. We'll come back to him in the episode where he leads the construction of the Shacktron. We'll come back to him when he becomes, of all things, a billionaire. But first, we have to keep walking. Reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold, buy. Bill Cipher does not show up in person until late in the first season. He shows up in Dreamscaperers, in the Dreamscape summoned by Gideon. He's small. He's flat. He's a yellow triangle with one eye and a top hat and a bow tie. And the second he opens his mouth, the show changes shape. The line he drops at the end of that first encounter is the single most repeated quote in the entire Gravity Falls fandom. Reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold? Buy. Fans have done long video essays on this one line. 45 seconds of dialogue, and it tells you everything you need to know about Bill. He is mocking you. He is mocking the audience. He is mocking the kids he's talking to. He is mocking the concept of conspiracy theories. He is mocking infomercials. He's pretending to be a late-night TV gold buying scam. And under all of it, he's not actually wrong, because in Gravity Falls, reality really is an illusion. The universe really is something stranger than it looks. The triangle who tells you to buy gold is also the triangle who can rearrange your face. The most famous of all Bill Cipher quotes, delivered as he exits Gideon's mind in Dreamscaperers. It perfectly encapsulates his conspiracy theorist vibe and abrupt exits. The reason this line lives rent-free in so many people's heads, fans will tell you, is because of the rhythm. The rhythm is the whole thing. Reality is an illusion. The universe is a hologram. Buy gold, buy. It's almost a poem. It's almost a song. It's the kind of line you can chant. The kind of line that the show itself plays back on a tape recorder during Weirdmageddon, because by the end, the line is no longer a joke. It's a prophecy. It's a thesis. It's the user manual for a universe Bill is about to redesign. And the fandom has done this thing where they treat Bill's words like scripture. Forum threads will quote him the way some people quote movies. They will pull this line out at random, and the entire group chat will respond with another Bill line. It's a call and response. It's a ritual. It's part of why the show has refused to die for over a decade. I'll be watching you, Pine Tree. Bill has a name for everyone. Pine Tree for Dipper, because of the pine tree on his hat. Shooting Star for Mabel, because of the shooting star on her sweater. Fez for Stan, question mark for Seuss, Ice Bag for Wendy. Llama for Pacifica. Six Fingers for Ford. The fact that these nicknames exist at all is one of the small details fans cling to, because it tells you that Bill has been watching these people for a long, long time. Longer than the kids realize, longer than Ford realized. When Bill exits Dipper's mind at the end of Dreamscaperers, he leans back into the frame and says, "I'll be watching you. We'll meet again. Don't know where. Don't know when. Oh, I know we'll meet again some sunny day." Fans have written essays on that line too. He's quoting a World War II song, a song that British soldiers used to sing to their wives when they were leaving for the front. A song about loss, a song about the chance that nobody comes home, and Bill is humming it at a 12-year-old boy whose body he's just touched. The discomfort of it is the whole point. Bill is not a normal villain. Bill is a creature who has read every book ever written, knows every song ever sung, and remixes them into threats. There's a moment in the last Mabelcorn where Bill is alone with Ford in a memory, and the same kind of dread starts seeping out of him. His eye flashes between numerous characters as he searches for his next target to possess and trick the Pines family when the time is right and when they least expect it. And the eye flashes Dipper, then Mabel, then Seuss, then Stan, then Ford. He's shopping. He's a creature out shopping for a body, and the body he picks is going to be the one that hurts the most. The dread of this is what makes the line work. Fans go back and pause that frame. They count the characters Bill considers. They debate which choice would have hurt more. And the eye lands on Mabel finally. And we know, sitting in our living rooms a decade later, that the show is setting up something that will gut us. Welcome, one and all, to Weirdmageddon. The line drops in Weirdmageddon Part 1, after the rift cracks, after the eye opens in the sky, after Bill steps through into the third dimension for the first time in a trillion years. He stands over the statue of Nathaniel Northwest in the town square. He melts the statue with his finger, and then he gives the speech. This party never stops. Time is dead and life has no meaning. Existence is upside down and I reign supreme. Welcome one and all to Weirdmageddon. Fans memorize this, fans recite this, fans have it stitched on patches and sewn into Halloween costumes and shouted at conventions. The reason it works is the rhythm again. Time is dead, life has no meaning, existence is upside down, and I reign supreme, 4 punches in a row. The cadence is biblical. The cadence is a king crowning himself. The cadence is a villain announcing he has won. But here's the part the fandom obsesses over. Bill is in this moment a god. He is fully physical. He is fully realized. He has friends pouring through the rift behind him. He has the eye-bats coming. He has the henchmaniacs coming. He has 8-Ball, and Kryptos, and Pyronica, and Keyhole, and Teeth, and the being whose name must never be said. For 1 trillion years, I've been trapped in my own decaying dimension, waiting for a new universe to call my own. Name's Bill, but you can call me your new lord and master for all of eternity. 1 trillion years, trapped in his own decaying dimension. This is the line fans pull out when they want to argue that Bill is not just a Disney cartoon villain. He is technically one of the oldest beings in any animated fiction. He came from a dimension that died. He saw his own world end. He spent 1 trillion years bargaining and scheming and waiting in the cracks of other people's dreams, looking for the door. And the door was Stanford Pines. The door was a man so lonely he believed the wrong friend. The Weirdmageddon speech is a victory lap for that trillion-year wait. And the fact that Bill cannot resist giving a speech, cannot resist talking, cannot resist explaining the joke, is also the thing that will kill him. We'll come back to that. 1 lifespan, 3-dimensional, 5-cent skin puppets. The other line from the Weirdmageddon opening that won't leave fans' heads is the one Bill uses to describe humans. He stands over the citizens of Gravity Falls, the citizens he's about to petrify into a throne, and he addresses them like a substitute teacher addressing a class. All right, listen up. You one lifespan. Three-dimensional 5-cent skin puppets. This is the line fans will tell you, where you understand what humans actually are to Bill. We are not people. We are skin puppets. We have 5 senses, which to him is a pitiful number. We have 3 dimensions, which to him is a sad cage. We have 1 lifespan, which to him is barely worth counting. The contempt is so total that it's almost charming. He sees us the way we might see ants on a sidewalk. He's not even angry at us. He's bored of us. He's been bored of us for 1 trillion years. And the fandom takes that line and runs with it. They use skin puppet as shorthand. They write fic about what it feels like to be one. They draw fan art of Bill standing over a crowd of people drawn as little marionettes. The line burrows in because it makes you feel for 1 second what it's like to be looked at by something old. The other side of that contempt is the line Bill drops a moment later when Stan offers to make a deal. Stan offers to give Bill anything. Bill responds casually that he'll instead just shuffle the functions of every hole on Stan's face. Oh wow, that's a great offer. How about instead, I shuffle the functions of every hole in your face? The fandom rates this one as Bill's funniest threat. Not his scariest, not his cruelest, just the funniest. Because what does that even mean? What does it mean to shuffle the functions of every hole on a face? Mouth becomes nose. Ear becomes mouth. He does it to Preston Northwest. Preston walks around screaming through his eye for the rest of the apocalypse. And fans will tell you that one image, that one body horror gag aimed at the rich villain of the show is one of the meanest single jokes Disney has ever broadcast. We'll come back to Preston too. We'll come back to him in the night his daughter was forced to ring a bell. Pain is hilarious. Bill says this in the middle of the Mindscape sequences while he's torturing Ford. 3 words, pain is hilarious. Fans have written about how this is the single most chilling line in the entire show. Not because it's the loudest, not because it's the cruelest in description, because it's the most casual, it's the throwaway. He says it the way you might say a sandwich is delicious. Pain is hilarious. And once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. Every time Bill laughs for the rest of the series, you remember what he was laughing at. The line also reframes everything Bill has ever done in the show. Dipper getting possessed in sock opera. Ford getting tricked into building the portal. Mabel getting trapped in the bubble. McGucket's mind being broken. Stan's body being burned. All of it. Every single act of cruelty in Bill's history. They were not means to an end. They were the end. He likes it. He thinks it's funny. He's not torturing people because he needs information. He's torturing people because he is bored otherwise. Fans will tell you that Bill Cipher is the rare villain whose comedy and horror are actually the same thing. He is not a funny villain who occasionally does horrible things. He is a horrible villain whose horror is the joke. The funnier he gets, the worse he is, the more he giggles, the more you should be looking for the exits. This is the warning the show is putting in your ear, episode after episode, before the apocalypse arrives. Bill is laughing because something terrible is happening. Bill is always laughing. You do the math. Did you miss me? Admit it, you missed me. Weird Mageddon Part 3 opens with a moment fans have rewatched 1,000 times. Bill is on his throne of frozen people. He's bored. He's been waiting. And then he sees the pines. He sees the kids running back into his sight. And he goes positively giddy. Did you miss me? Admit it. You missed me? Fans will tell you this line is so good because of the order. He doesn't ask once, he asks twice. The first time he's playing, the second time he's commanding. Admit it. You missed me? There is no choice. He's making you complicit in his own return. And of course, in a way, every viewer at home has missed him. The fandom waited weeks between episodes. They wanted Bill back on screen. They wanted the apocalypse to start. The show knows you. The show is in conversation with you. Bill is breaking the 4th wall without ever breaking the 4th wall. And then he chases them. He chases the twins through the streets of his redesigned Gravity Falls. The streets where buildings now float. The streets where some citizens have been turned into eyes. The streets where his henchmaniacs are throwing parties in the rubble. Mabel is running. Dipper is running. They are pre-teens trying to outrun a god. And Bill says in a sing-song voice that fans have looped 100 times in YouTube edits, "Eeny, meeny, miny, you." Fans freeze that frame. Bill's eye is on Mabel. He's chosen. He's going to murder a 12-year-old girl in front of her brother. He says it like a nursery rhyme. He says it the way a kid picks a friend for dodgeball. The cheerfulness is the horror. It always has been. Pain is hilarious. We were warned. I have some children I gotta make into corpses. This line is in the same chase. It's the line that fans will tell you finally proved that Bill was not bluffing. The show had not committed to letting him be a real villain. He's a Disney cartoon antagonist after all. He's a triangle in a bow tie. He's funny. He's giggly. He sells gold. And then he turns mid-chase and announces his next plan. I've got some children to make into corpses. Fans will tell you this is the line where the show stopped being a kid's show. Or rather, the line where it stopped pretending it ever had been. Disney let that line air. They let a yellow triangle named Bill Cipher openly announce that he was going to murder children. And the show meant it. The show was not playing. The chase that follows has actual stakes. The fact that Bill ends up trapped, the fact that Stan ends up sacrificing his own mind to defeat him, only works because we believed in that moment that Bill would have done it. He would have killed them. He was lining up to... This is what the fandom keeps coming back to when they argue about whether Bill Cipher is the best animated villain ever written. They say he is because he is the rare cartoon villain who is allowed to be genuinely dangerous. He is the rare cartoon villain who threatens kids and means it. The show does not soften him. The show does not give him a redemption arc. The show does not even give him a clean death. He is dragged out of the world inside Stan's mind and erased. And he probably is not even fully gone. The credits scene with the statue in the woods, the one with the deer skull and the moss, the one with the outstretched hand. Fans have stared at that frame for 10 years. They are still staring. We'll get to that statue in a later chunk. We'll get to it when we get to the very last quotes. Bill is always watching. Before we leave the Bill section of this walk and move on to the other voices, fans want one more line in the record. It's from The Last Mabelcorn. It's the one Bill drops in Ford's memory. He's not even speaking to the audience. He's speaking to Ford, his former friend, who has finally figured out that Bill lied to him about the portal, who has finally figured out that the portal was never meant to help mankind. Oh, Gravity Falls. It is good to be back. Bill says the second he gets his hands on Dipper's body in sock opera. The fandom has called this the moment Bill confirmed he had been to Gravity Falls before. Not just in dreams, not just in the mindscape, in a body. In Ford's body, years before any of the twins were ever born. The line fans will pull out the most from that confrontation, though, is the one Bill says when Ford accuses him of lying. Sure I am. What's your point? The casualness. Again, he's not denying it. He doesn't waste energy denying it. He admits everything and shrugs. Sure I lied. What's your point? 5 words and an entire era of Ford's life collapses. Ford built the portal because Bill told him it was for the good of all mankind. Ford brought the project to McGucket because Bill told him it was a gift to humanity. Ford gave Bill the keys to his brain because Bill said they were friends. And now Bill is laughing at him from a memory. Sure, I lied. What's your point? Fans will tell you Ford never recovers from that line. Not really. He spends the rest of the show with the visible weight of having trusted the wrong friend. He spends the rest of the show looking at Dipper, who reminds him of himself at 12, and quietly trying to figure out how to keep Dipper from making the same mistake. The line that started in The Last Mabelcorn, "Sure I am. What's your point?" echoes through every Ford scene for the rest of the series. This is the trick the show plays with Bill. Every casual line he speaks turns into a weight someone else has to carry. My name is Fiddleford Hadron McGucket, and I wish to unsee what I have seen. This line, fans will tell you, is the line that broke the show open. It's the line that turned the local kook into a tragedy. It's the line that turned a one-off gag character into one of the most important figures in Gravity Falls history. The scene is in Society of the Blind Eye. Dipper, Mabel, Seuss, Wendy, and McGucket have broken into a secret meeting hall beneath the Gravity Falls Museum of History. They have found a wall of memory tubes. Each one belongs to a townsperson. Each one was filled by force, and one of them, The very oldest, the very first, has McGucket's name on it. Dipper pops the tube into a projector. The footage flickers on. And there, on the screen, is a younger McGucket. He's clean-shaven. He's wearing glasses. He's holding the memory gun in his own hands. He's calm. He's articulate. He looks like the scientist he used to be. And he says it. My name is Fiddleford Hadron McGucket, and I wish to unsee what I have seen. Fans pause on this line. The forums lit up the night this aired. The fandom wikis were rewritten within hours, because this is the moment the show confirmed what a lot of fans had been theorizing for almost 2 seasons. McGucket was the assistant. McGucket built the portal with the author. McGucket saw what came through, and when he could not unsee it, he built a gun to make himself forget. The tape keeps playing. For the past year, I have been working as an assistant for a visiting researcher. He has been cataloging his findings about Gravity Falls in a series of journals. I helped him build a machine which he believed had the potential to benefit all mankind, but something went wrong. I decided to quit the project. But I lie awake at night, haunted by the thoughts of what I've done. I believe I have invented a machine that can permanently erase these memories from my mind. The line that gets fans the most, though, is the one that comes after. The line where McGucket pulls the trigger on himself for the first time. The line where, after the static, he comes back on camera and beams at himself like a child. It worked. I can't recall a thing. Fans replay this moment to argue about how horrifying it is. He sounds delighted. He sounds proud. He just gave himself amnesia, and he is treating it like a successful experiment. And the next tape over, his hair is longer. The next one over, his hair is gone. The next one over, he's filming from a motel. The next one over, he's filming from the junkyard. The next one over, he's wild-eyed and giggling and speaking in code. I've been forgetting words lately. I wonder if there are any negative side effects. This is the part of the show that fans on TikTok call the lobotomy montage. The most quoted version of it is the moment a McGucket, who is barely a person anymore, looks into the camera, with a triangle drawn around his eye and rasps out a code in @bash that translates to Bill Cipher. Triangle. Ru Xvi. Gersmtov. This was the warning he was trying to leave for someone. Anyone. He had figured out who was really behind the portal. He had figured out the triangle. And then he erased himself again. The fans who do close reading on this episode argue that McGucket was, in some ways, the first person in Gravity Falls to actually understand Bill, and what it cost him to understand was every memory he had. There is a long-running fan theory that McGucket's mental state in Season 1 is what fans call a self-inflicted lobotomy. The TikToks calling this out, the ones the fandom keeps reposting, will say things like, "Bro got so traumatized, he basically lobotomized himself and looked twice his age at 30. And once you see it that way, every gag the character has ever done shifts. The screaming about robots, the eating raccoons, the living in a shack, the death rays, these are not jokes anymore. These are symptoms. You can run, but I'll still be in your nightmares." There's a McGucket line that fans pull out as a kind of dark joke alongside the Blind Eye tapes. It's from Bottomless Pit, an earlier episode, well before we knew his real backstory. He shouts it at the kids gleefully as he chases them. "You can run, but I'll still be in your nightmares." On first watch, it's a one-liner, a bit, the local crazy guy yelling at the kids. On rewatch, it lands differently. Because by then, you know that McGucket has been in everyone's nightmares for 30 years. He's the one who built the gun that put their fears into glass tubes in a basement under the museum. He's the one whose face shows up in Ford's old journals as the assistant. He's the one whose memories will eventually solve the show. The man you laughed at in Season 1 is the man you'll cry for in Season 2. And he was telling you the whole time? He was in your nightmares. He always was. A brother worth trading the world for. We have to come back to Stan now. Because the heart of Gravity Falls fans will tell you is not Bill Cipher. The heart is 2 old men in a cave who used to be best friends. 2 boys on a swing set in Glass Shard Beach, New Jersey. 2 twins who built a boat called the Stan O War and dreamed of sailing it around the world. The flashback that breaks open in A Tale of Two Stans is the moment the show stops being a kids' show with Monster of the Week and becomes a family epic. Stan in voiceover describes his childhood, His and Ford's. He says it plain. Those bullies may have been right about us not making many friends, but when push comes to shove, you only really need one. Fans have written essays on this line. Forum threads have called it the thesis of the show. The line is delivered by Stan in narration over a flashback of him and Ford playing alone on the beach. Two boys who only had each other. Stan is the only kid who didn't make fun of Ford's 6 fingers. Ford is the only person who ever thought Stan was smart enough to keep up. The bullies are right. They didn't have many friends, but the friends they had were each other. And then Ford gets accepted to West Coast Tech, and Stan, in a jealous moment, breaks the perpetual motion machine, and their father, Philbrick, hears the news and disowns Stan that same night, throws him out. The Pines family disowns Stanley. The line Philbrick says in that flashback is the one fans will pull out as the meanest line any father has ever said in a Disney cartoon. He's voiced by Jonathan Banks, Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad, and his voice carries the same heavy dead weight. He tells Stanley that until Stanley makes the family rich, he is not welcome in this house. Stan spends the next 10 years in his car. He goes through aliases, he goes through identities, he goes through every con in every state. Hal Forrester, Andrew 8-Ball, Alcatraz, Stetson Pinefield, Steve Pennington. He's running from himself. He's running from the brother he wronged. And then he gets a postcard. Ford wants him to come to Oregon. Ford has built something amazing. What Ford has built is the portal. Stanford Pines and the trillion-year mistake. When Stan arrives at the Mystery Shack in the flashback, Ford is paranoid. Ford is haunted. Ford is convinced his work has been corrupted. And Ford has a request. He wants Stan to take Journal 1 and hide it on the other side of the country. He cannot trust himself with it anymore. The two of them fight. The fight ends, somehow, with Stan accidentally knocking Ford into the active portal. Ford is gone, and Stan is alone in a basement under the shack with 2 of the 3 journals and no way to bring his brother home. The line he writes on the wall of that basement, the line the fandom traces back as the start of the entire show, is a vow. Stan tells himself he will get his brother back if it takes him the rest of his life. It takes him 30 years. 30 years of running the Mystery Shack as a tourist trap. 30 years of stealing radioactive waste in the middle of the night. 30 years of building a doomsday device under his own house. 30 years of pretending to be his own brother because the real one was missing and presumed dead. 30 years of using Ford's name, Ford's house, Ford's face on a fake gravestone he stood next to, smiling for the local newspaper. This is the context fans want you to remember when you go back to watch Not What He Seems. This is the context behind every line in the most emotional scene the show ever made. I wanted to say that you're going to hear some bad things about me. The basement scene in Not What He Seems. The countdown is running. The portal is opening. Stan has just escaped federal custody. Dipper has just seen the security tape. The twins are convinced their great uncle is about to destroy the universe. The gravity in the basement flips. Everyone floats. Mabel is hanging in the air near the override button. Dipper is screaming at her to push it. Stan is begging her not to. I wanted to say that you're gonna hear some bad things about me, and some of them are true. But trust me, everything I've worked for, everything I care about, it's all for this family. Fans have ranked this as the single greatest piece of dialogue in the show. Stan, who has been lying to these kids for an entire summer, who has been lying to the town for 30 years, who has been lying to himself for longer than that, breaks and tells them the only true thing he has ever said. Everything he has done has been for this family. Mabel, crying, hanging in the air, voice cracking, says the line that TV Tropes calls one of Kristen Schall's saddest performances ever. She says, "I want to believe you, but..." And Stan says the line that fans will tattoo on their arms. The line that fans will quote at funerals. The line that the TV Fanatic essay calls one of the most powerful single appeals in animated TV. Look into my eyes, Mabel. You really think I'm a bad guy? Fans have written page after page on why this line lands so hard. The argument the TV Fanatic essay makes is that Stan is not asking Mabel to evaluate his explanation. He is asking her to evaluate their relationship. With Stan's appeal to their relationship, Mabel stops thinking with her head and listens to her heart. If the writing focused more on what the portal is or what Stan's explanation is, then Mabel's decision would be based on the credibility of Stan's explanation instead of the authenticity of their relationship. It is not a logical question, it is a love question. He is not asking, does she have evidence he is a good guy? He is asking, does she know him? And the brilliance of the scene is that the show has spent 30 episodes preparing her and us to answer that question. The countdown hits 10, 9, 6, 5, and Mabel lifts her hand off the override button. She lets herself drift up into the air. She says 4 words that broke the fandom in half. I trust you. The forums lit up. Threads ran for hundreds of comments. The live wiki chat exploded with protests of no Mabel when that happened. Epic line though, an epic delivery from Kristen. Some fans were furious. Some fans were sobbing. Some fans had already figured out who Stan was and were cheering. Every camp in the fandom had a reaction to those 4 words, and none of them were neutral. And then the universe doesn't end. The portal opens, a figure walks out, and the figure has 6 fingers. And the figure is the author of the journals. And Stan, behind the figure in a moment fans have replayed 1,000 times, says quietly, "The author of the journals, my brother." Mabel, in shock, says the line that breaks the tension and gets a laugh in the middle of the most emotional cliffhanger of the season. Is this the part where one of us faints? Sue's giggling says, "I'm so on it, dude." And he faints. The episode ends. The fandom did not sleep that week. Hot Belgian waffles. Wait, I'm alone. I can swear for real. We have to acknowledge the line that broke a different kind of fan record in that same episode. The line that comes earlier, the line where Stan is alone in the basement before the kids find him, dragging chemical waste containers around in a hazmat suit. He drops a container on his foot. He yells the line every Disney parent has heard their child quote 1,000 times. Hot Belgian waffles? Wait, I'm alone. I can swear for real. Son of a... Dipper fast forwards the tape before we hear what Stan actually said. Son of a... I think he was going to say brisket. The fandom invented 100 guesses. Son of a biscuit. Son of a gun. Son of a Stanford Pines. The genius of the moment is that it works as a gag for kids and a much darker gag for adults. Stan is a man who has been censoring himself for 30 years. Stan is a man who has been performing the cheerful tourist trap owner for 30 years. And the second he thinks he is alone, the mask cracks. He swears like a sailor. The fact that the kids accidentally caught it on tape, the fact that Dipper has to fast forward through it, is the show winking at the gap between public Stan and private Stan. They are 2 different people. They have always been 2 different people. Fans will tell you the joke also doubles as foreshadowing. The whole point of Not What He Seems, the whole point of the episode title, the whole point of Mabel's choice, is the gap between who Stan presents himself as and who he actually is. The waffles line is that gap as comedy. The portal scene is that gap as drama. The show is the same show, it just turns up the brightness on different scenes. You really aren't gonna thank me, are you? When Ford steps out of the portal in A Tale of Two Stans, the first thing he does is punch his brother in the face. Not hug him, punch him. Fans have a lot of feelings about this. The 30-year wait, the doomsday device, the radioactive waste, the fake death, the stolen identity, the kids' lives that were almost ended by the portal opening. Ford is not grateful. Ford is furious. He says he should have stayed in the portal. Stan, bewildered and bruised, asks the question that fans pull out as the worst part of the whole reunion. You really aren't gonna thank me, are you? 6 words. The accumulated grief of 30 years of work, 30 years of saving his brother, 30 years of being told he was the lesser twin, 30 years of being the Pines who got disowned because he was, supposedly, the dumb one. And here is his brilliant brother back in the world, refusing to say thanks. Ford never does say thanks. Not in that episode, not in the next several, not for almost the entire rest of the season. He treats Stan like a problem to be tolerated. He claims the house back. He claims his name back. He tells Stan to stay away from the kids. He treats Stan. In fact, the way their father always treated Stan. The fandom has noted this. Ford spends most of season 2 turning into Philbrick. He doesn't realize he is doing it. The line, "You really aren't gonna thank me, are you?" is the wound that will determine the entire finale. Because when the Zodiac Wheel finally appears in Weirdmageddon 3, Take Back the Falls, Stan will refuse to join it. He will refuse until Ford finally apologizes. And even then, the two of them will argue. And the argument will give Bill the opening he needs to escape the seal. The grudge between these two old men. The grudge that started with a perpetual motion machine in a basement in 1970. The grudge that grew during 30 years of separation is the grudge that almost ends the world. We'll get to the resolution. We'll get to the moment Ford finally thanks his brother. We'll get to the moment Stan walks into Bill's death trap with a smug grin. But first, there's a sock to talk about. First, there's a haunted sock with painted-on eyes and a song about a marriage falling apart. Because before Stan saved Ford, before the Wheel and the Shacktron and the Apocalypse, there was a much smaller fight in a much smaller theater between a brother and a sister and a triangle. And the cost of that fight was almost a body. Who would sacrifice everything they've worked for just for their dumb sibling? We have to talk about sock opera now, because the lines from this episode have been carved into the fandom for over a decade. Sock opera is, on the surface, a goofy episode about Mabel falling for a puppet boy named Gabe and putting on a sock theater show to impress him. Underneath, it is the episode where Bill Cipher gets a body for the first time. It is the episode where the show announced, with full confidence, that Bill is not a friend. He is a parasite, and he has been waiting for an opening. The opening Bill gets is Dipper. Dipper is exhausted. He has been working on the laptop from Ford's bunker for days. The password is locked. The hard drive is going to wipe in minutes. And Mabel, his sister, his other half, the person who is supposed to be helping him, has been blowing him off all week because she has a crush on a boy. Bill appears. Bill makes the pitch. He says he can give Dipper the password. He says all he wants in exchange is a puppet. Dipper says no. Dipper, even tired, even desperate, says Mabel worked really hard on those puppets. And Bill, very softly, leans into the wound. Bill slyly reminds Dipper of all the times he has sacrificed his own wants for Mabel, like preventing Robbie and Wendy from going out so she could have Waddles, or his job at the public pool so she could help Mermondo, who has never seemed to return any favors. This is the part of the scene the fandom calls the manipulation montage. Bill is not lying. Every example he gives is real. Dipper did give up his shot at Wendy for Mabel's pig. Dipper did give up his pool job for Mabel's merman. Dipper has in fact been the twin who absorbs the costs of his sister's whims for the entire summer. And Bill, in his sing-song demon voice, holds up that ledger and asks Dipper to look at it. The book is going to wipe. Mabel isn't coming. What does loyalty get you in this family? Dipper shakes his hand. The hand is the deal. The hand is the trap. The hand is the trick fans now point to whenever they explain how Bill works. Bill asks for a puppet. Dipper, in his head, hears one of Mabel's sock puppets. Bill, in his head, means Dipper himself. Dipper is the puppet. Dipper has always been the puppet. And the second they shake, Bill kicks Dipper out of his own body and into the mindscape. The fandom calls this version of Bill Bipper. Bipper has Dipper's body. Bipper has Dipper's hat. Bipper has icy cold hands, because energy beings do not have a pulse. Bipper falls downstairs and giggles. Bipper jams pencils through Dipper's hands and screams. Mabel to wonder if Dipper's body is dead while Bill is possessing it. Bill also left a note behind for Mabel to find, saying that his ultimate plan was to throw Dipper's body off the water tower and trap him forever in the mindscape. This is the part of sock opera that fans on the wiki call the line the show probably should not have aired. Bill, in Dipper's 12-year-old body, is planning to throw that body off a water tower. Dipper would have been trapped in the mindscape, a ghost forever. Mabel would have woken up the next morning and been told her brother had jumped. The fact that Disney let this plot run is the same thing the fandom keeps coming back to. The show was never really a kids' show. The line that broke the episode open, the line the fandom rates as the most emotionally devastating thing Mabel ever heard, comes in the second act, Bill. Still in Dipper's body approaches Mabel during her sock opera. He is holding the journal hostage. He is dangling it over the stage. He is going to drop it into a cake unless she gives him Dipper's body permanently. And he leans into her and says the line. There it is. I mean, who would sacrifice everything they've worked for just for their dumb sibling? He pauses. He waits for Mabel to crumple. He waits for her to choose her play over her brother. Because that is what Bill thinks of humans. That is what Bill thinks of love. Sacrifice is for suckers. Family is a leash. He has watched 1 trillion lifespans of skin puppets, and he has learned that we always pick ourselves. Always. Mabel pulls the journal back. She drags Bipper into the cake with it, and she says the line that fans have made into the entire show in 3 words. Dipper would. That is the answer to the question. Who would sacrifice everything for their dumb sibling? Dipper would. Mabel has known this her entire life. Mabel has been on the receiving end of Dipper's sacrifices for 12 years. Bill thought he was making a winning argument. Bill thought he was reminding Mabel that her brother had been quietly suffering for her. Bill did not realize he was reminding her of the exact reason she would never let go of that journal. Fans pull this line out as the proof of the central thesis of the show. Bill cannot understand love because love is not transactional. He thought Dipper's sacrifices were debts. They were not. They were just love. They were the thing love does. And Mabel, in that moment, paid them back. She let her play burn. She let her crush walk out. She got her brother back. The TV Tropes recap of sock opera puts a name on this. Evil cannot comprehend good. This is apparently why Bill's "the reason you suck" speech to Mabel fails. Bill is supposed to win this exchange. He is the trillion-year-old demon. She is a 12-year-old girl in a sweater. He has every advantage. And she beats him because he can't read the room. He is so old and so smart that he has forgotten what the simplest emotion in the human catalog actually feels like. It's slipping. How's about you hand that book over? The other line from this scene fans treasure is the bait. Bill realizes he is losing his grip on Dipper's body. The possession is fading. The host is rejecting him. So he makes one last try to swap the body for the journal. Bill Cipher, it's slipping. How's about you hand that book over? Mabel pines. No way. This is Dipper's. I'd never give it away. Mabel pivots. She has just been called selfish for a whole episode. She has just been told she ignores her brother. She has just had a stranger in her brother's body tell her she takes him for granted. And the second the moment comes, the second the choice is real, she chooses Dipper. Without a beat, without hesitation. The fandom keeps coming back to this exchange because it is, in miniature, the entire Dipper and Mabel arc. The siblings will fight. The siblings will hurt each other. The siblings will roll their eyes at each other and call each other dumb. But when one of them is in actual danger, the answer is always the same. The answer is always the other twin. That is the answer we'll come back to in Dipper and Mabel versus the Future. That is the answer we'll come back to in Weirdmageddon 2. That is the answer we'll come back to in the final letter Wendy gives Dipper at the bus stop. But before we walk to that bus stop, we need to walk back into the woods, because there are quotes from earlier in the show that are quieter, weirder, more specific. Quotes that don't carry the universe on them. Quotes that only carry a moment. And the fandom loves these maybe more than any other kind. Just a doll or something. Fans have a soft spot for the line in Tourist Trapped, where Stan, in the gift shop, offers Mabel a souvenir from his junk drawer. He suggests casually that she pick a doll or something. Mabel grabs the grappling hook. The grappling hook becomes one of the longest-running gags in the show. Mabel uses it in almost every episode. She uses it to grab snacks. She uses it to escape danger. She uses it to shoot out lights and bicycles and her own hair ties. And she uses it, in the pilot's final moment, to shoot the bedroom light out of the window with no warning. At the end, Dipper tells Mabel to turn off the light, but instead, she shoots it out of the window with the grappling hook, and they laugh about it. Fans treasure this final beat because it is the perfect first episode ending. Mabel's whole personality distilled. Stan offers her a doll. She grabs a weapon. Dipper asks her to be normal. She breaks the room. They laugh. The summer begins. The line itself, grappling hook, has become one of the most quoted single words in the fandom. People will respond to questions with it. People will tattoo little grappling hooks on their wrists. People will use it as a Discord reaction. It is shorthand for Mabel. It is shorthand for choosing weird over expected. It is the same energy as her take me with you whisper. The energy of a girl who will surprise you in every single situation. Dude, this is awesome. You two are like the mystery twins. Sue says this to Dipper and Mabel for the first time in Headhunters. They have just figured out who beheaded Wax Stan. They are loading an axe and fake IDs into the back of Stan's car. They are about to head to the biker bar called Skull Fracture. And Sue's watching them, beams. Dude, this is awesome. You two are like the mystery twins? Don't call us that. The line is delivered as a joke. Dipper hates the nickname. Mabel kind of likes it. Sue's is just calling it as he sees it. And the show, knowing exactly what it is doing, plants the Mystery Twins phrase in episode 3 and lets it grow. By the end of the series, the phrase has become canon. Fans use it. The credit scenes use it. The graphic novels use it. The closing cipher of A Tale of Two Stans reveals that Stan and Ford, as boys, were the original Mystery Twins. The whole show is in a way the story of one set of mystery twins almost making the same mistakes as the previous set. The phrase Suze drops in Headhunters is the phrase the show is about, the fandom has noticed. The fandom always notices. Suze, the cosmic constant. There is something about Suze that the fandom is unanimous on. Whatever else is happening in any episode, Suze is the calm at the center of it. He is the one who treats every cosmic event like a Tuesday. The portal opens. Suze faints, gets back up, asks for snacks. A demon possesses Dipper's body. Suze goes to find Mabel. A god named Bill Cipher reigns over the town. Suze invents a giant robot. The line fans pull out as peak Suze comes from Weirdmageddon 2, Escape from Reality. Dipper, Wendy, and Suze have just entered Mabel's prison bubble. The ground cracks. The three of them start falling through a rainbow-colored void. Suze grabs Wendy and Dipper, pulls them into a hug, and announces his terms. Guys, if I die, I want to die hugging. The fandom has tattooed this. The fandom has stitched this onto pillows. The fandom has framed this as the single most Suze line in the whole show. It captures in 7 words who he is. He is afraid of death. He accepts it might happen. But if it happens, he wants the last sensation he has to be the warmth of 2 friends. Even Dipper, mid-fall, complaining that Suze is choking him, cannot fully escape the hug. Suze says in the same scene, "Let my body be your shield." Another one fans love. Suze is the soft-bodied man-child in the cargo shorts who walks into the apocalypse and announces calmly that he will be the meat shield for the 2 children he loves. Without asking, without negotiating. He sees that he is the biggest one in the group, and that means his body is the wall. This is the recurring thing about Suze, the thing the Suze and the Real Girl episode digs into. Suze has been a father-shaped hole his whole life. His own father walked out before he could remember the man's face. He sends postcards once a year on Suze's birthday with no return address. Suze has spent his life trying to be the father he never had. To the twins, to Stan, to Melody when he meets her. To anybody who walks into the Mystery Shack and looks like they need a hand. The hugging line in the prison bubble is the visible part of a much deeper thing. Suze loves everyone in his life on purpose because no one loved him on purpose, and he refuses to pass the loneliness down. I say game over, Giffany. The line fans cite from Suze and the Real Girl is, in some ways, the moment Suze becomes a man on his own terms. Giffany, the haunted Japanese dating sim, has chased him through a Chuck E. Cheese-style pizza arcade. She is dangling a live USB cable. She is offering to download his brain into the game with her, so they can be together forever. She makes the pitch. Real girls are unpredictable. They judge you. Do you really think that Melody will take you back after this awful date? This is the trap fans recognize. Giffany is doing the Bill Cipher trick. She is offering Suze a version of reality where he never has to be uncomfortable again. She is offering him a girlfriend who will never disagree with him, never reject him, never need anything from him. She is offering control disguised as love. And Suze, despite being scared, despite being lonely, despite having every reason to take the easy thing, says no. He takes the CD out of his pocket. He drops it into the pizza oven. He says the line, "I say, game over, Giffany." The fandom celebrates this scene because it is the moment Seuss accepts that real love is uncomfortable on purpose. Real girls are unpredictable. Real friends judge you sometimes. Real life is harder than a dating sim, and that is somehow the part that makes it real. Melody is harder than Giffany. Melody is also a person. He chooses the person. He always chooses the person. The fandom traces this thread all the way to the finale, where Melody and Seuss end up together, where Seuss becomes the manager of the Mystery Shack, where Stan finally hands him the keys. The Seuss who threw the CD into the pizza oven is the Seuss who earned the shack, and the father question. We also have to mention the line fans hold up as the saddest thing Seuss ever says. It comes during Weirdmageddon 2, Escape from Reality. Inside Mabel's prison bubble, the dream world, each of the characters in the rescue party finds, in Mabeland, the thing they secretly want most in the world. For Dipper, it is a version of Wendy who actually wants him back. For Wendy, it is her old friends without any of the responsibilities of growing up. For Seuss, it is his father, a version of his father who came back. A version of his father who plays catch with him. The thing he has been missing his entire life. Fans pause on this scene because it is unbearably gentle. Mabel built her prison bubble out of comfort. Bill weaponized it. He weaponized everyone's tenderest wish. And the moment Seuss sees the catch with his dad, he wants to stay forever. He wants to live in the bubble and never come out. Dipper is the one who has to pull him back. Dipper, who has been a brother to Seuss as much as Seuss has been a father to Dipper, is the one who reminds Seuss that the bubble is not real. The catch will end. The dad will not. The fandom calls this scene one of the worst gut punches in the show. Because Mabeland is not really a prison, Mabeland is a heaven, and the people who get to leave it are the people who decide that the real, painful world is still worth more than the fake, comforting one. Seuss chooses to leave. Seuss chooses reality, and the cost of choosing reality is that he has to keep being a man without a father. We'll see this same shape repeated in Mabel's choice at the end of that bubble. We'll see it in Dipper's choice. The bubble is a test. The fandom argues decade later about who would have passed it and who would have failed. Some fans honestly say they would have stayed. The show does not judge them for it. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. We have to walk back to Carpet Diem now, because fans have a specific obsession with this episode that gets stronger every year. On the surface, Carpet Diem is the body swap episode. The twins find a magic shag rug. Static electricity swaps them into each other's bodies. Hijinks ensue. But the line fans pull out as the truest moment in the episode is not a punchline. It is a small, broken little chant. Dipper, suddenly in Mabel's body, hides in a corner. He rocks back and forth. He repeats the same words over and over again like a prayer. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. This isn't happening. The AV Club review of this episode argues that for 15 seconds, Gravity Falls becomes a full-fledged psychological horror show. They scream repeatedly. Mabel vomits in terror and tries to punch herself out of Dipper's body, and Dipper rocks back and forth in a corner, repeating the haunting refrain. For those 15 glorious seconds, Gravity Falls isn't an animated comedy. It's full-fledged psychological horror, and the sequence conveys just how world-destroying it would be to suddenly find oneself in another person's body. Fans cling to this. They cling to it because it is the moment the show admits that body swap stories are actually terrifying, not cute. Most cartoons play the swap for laughs and skip the part where the swap means your soul has been ripped out of your home. Carpet Diem does not skip that part. It lets the twins scream for 15 seconds straight. Mabel throws up. Dipper dissociates. The horror is real. The horror is named. And then, because the show is also a comedy, the show pivots. Seuss gets swapped into Waddles the pig and is delighted. Stan tries to give Mabel and Dipper's body the birds and the bees talk, and the kid screams. Grenda reads Dipper in Mabel's body a werewolf romance novel. The world keeps moving. The fandom uses Carpet Diem as a case study for how Gravity Falls handles tone. The horror sits next to the comedy without canceling it. The episode is funny because it is dark. The episode is dark because it is funny. Fans replay the scream sequence and then immediately replay the McGucket eats Waddles scene and laugh. The show never asks them to pick. Puberty is the greatest mystery of all. Hidden in the credits of Carpet Diem is one of the cryptograms the fandom puzzled over for years. The Caesar cipher at the bottom of a page in the in-universe book, Why Am I Sweaty?, decodes to a line that has become a fandom in joke. Puberty is the greatest mystery of all also. Go outside and make friends. Fans love this line because it is the show, very quietly admitting that all the gnomes and demons and time travelers, and unicorns and ghosts and aliens are also in some way about being 12 years old. The greatest mystery in Gravity Falls is not the author. It is not Bill. It is not the journals. It is the awful, embarrassing, magical process of stopping being a kid, of figuring out who you are when nobody is watching, of figuring out who you want to be when the summer ends. The credits cipher reads like a parent's note tucked into a kid's lunchbox. Go outside, make friends, try things. The world is full of monsters, sure, but most of the monsters are just feelings you have not figured out a name for yet. We will come back to this line. We will come back to it when Dipper, near the end of summer, has to decide whether to grow up and follow Ford on a lifetime apprenticeship into the unknown, or whether to stay 12 a little longer with his sister. The Caesar cipher in the credits of an early Body Swap episode was, it turns out, the question the whole show was always going to ask. Boys are weirder than I thought. Mabel's romantic life is one of the things fans return to most often when they talk about the lines they cannot stop thinking about. Mabel falls in love a lot. Mabel falls in love badly. Mabel falls in love with Norman, who turns out to be 5 gnomes in a trench coat. Mabel falls in love with Mermando, who is a merman who literally lives in a different ocean. Mabel falls in love with Gabe, who turns out to only love sock puppets. Mabel falls in love with Gideon, briefly, before discovering that he is a manipulative little tyrant in a blue suit. The line fans use as the through line for all of this comes from the love god. Mabel is meddling with Robbie's heart. She is using a love potion to fix him after Wendy broke up with him. The love god himself, the character at the music festival, drops the line on her gently. You can't force someone to love you. The best you can do is strive to be someone worth loving. Fans pull this out as the show's quietest philosophy on romance. Mabel spends most of the series trying to control love. She tries to engineer it for herself. She tries to engineer it for everyone around her. She is 14 at the most. She has the heart of a teenager and the energy of a wedding planner. And the show kindly keeps telling her the same thing. You cannot make a person love you. You can only make yourself a person worth loving. By the end of the show, Mabel has in fact made herself a person worth loving. Not to a boy, to her brother, to Pacifica, to Grenda and Candy, to Stan, to the entire town. The love she was chasing in 100 wrong directions found her anyway, just not in the shape she thought it would come in. Marius, won't you marry us? Speaking of Mabel's romantic chaos, the fandom has a specific soft spot for the Northwest Mansion mystery subplot, where Mabel and Grenda compete for the affection of Marius von Funchauser, a 15-year-old Austrian baron. Grenda, in a deep, growling voice, croons a line at him that fans have been quoting at each other for over a decade. The line is delivered like a marriage proposal sung by a foghorn. Marius, won't you marry us? Fans love Grenda specifically because she is allowed to be unapologetically herself. She is loud, she is large, she is voiced like a sailor with bronchitis. And she wins Marius. He picks her. The Austrian baron picks the goblin-voiced American girl with the deep, deep voice. The fandom calls this one of the most satisfying romantic outcomes in any kid's show because it is the show, again, refusing to pretend that love has rules. Marius likes Grenda, the end. The other half of that subplot, of course, is the line Mabel mutters to herself when she sees Grenda win. Grenda stops Mabel, who is basically about to throw herself at him, from getting to Marius, reminding her that they made a truce. Mabel honors the truce. Mabel watches her friend kiss the boy Mabel wanted. Mabel learns very quietly that friendship sometimes costs you the thing you wanted. And the fandom rates this as one of the small Mabel growth moments that the show does not call attention to. Ancient sins. Ancient sins. But the real reason the fandom keeps coming back to Northwest Mansion Mystery is Pacifica. The episode is the Pacifica episode. The episode where the show takes the cartoonish rich girl bully and rebuilds her into one of the most heartbreaking characters in the cast. The lumberjack ghost in the mansion is a Category 10. The journal's only advice is to pray for mercy. He has come to take revenge on the Northwest family for breaking a 150-year-old promise. The ghost speaks in a chant. The chant fans have memorized ancient sins, ancient sins, ancient sins, ancient sins. The chant is followed by a rhyme, ancient blood and blackened skies. The forest dark once more shall rise. Fans love this rhyme because it is one of the few moments the show lets itself be straight horror. No comedy, no undercutting. Just a flaming ghost with a beard reciting old curses in a fancy ballroom. The lumberjack is the past coming back to collect. The Northwests built their fortune by lying to the townspeople they hired. They promised an annual ball, paid the workers in promises, opened the gates only to themselves for 150 years. The ancient sin is the lie. The lumberjack is the bill. Pacifica, all episode, has been suffering inside the mansion. Her father, Preston, has been ringing a bell at her to control her posture, her dress, her voice. The fandom has noted that the bell that Preston uses throughout the episode was meant to represent that he viewed Pacifica like a show dog, and it was his equivalent of, "I'm going to count to 3. Pacifica has been treated like a show animal her whole life. The bell is the leash, and Dipper, halfway through the episode, looks at her and says one of the most pointed lines anyone says to Pacifica in the whole show. He tells her that she is going to grow up to be exactly like her parents. He tells her that the worst thing about her family is that they have made her one of them. Pacifica cries. Pacifica goes into the secret room she has never entered. Pacifica reads the family history. Pacifica realizes the ghost is right. The line fans pull from this episode as Pacifica's true moment is the one she says to herself alone. When she realizes who she has been, she calls herself another link in the world's worst chain. This is a 12-year-old girl in a ball gown, the daughter of the richest family in town, calling her own bloodline the world's worst chain. Fans use this line as evidence that Gravity Falls is one of the most generous shows ever made to its antagonists. Pacifica is allowed to break. She is allowed to see what she comes from. She is allowed to decide she is going to be different. And by the end of the episode, she has thrown the gates of her family mansion open to the entire town in defiance of her father. She has in one night broken the chain. This is the kind of redemption arc the fandom calls slow but real. Pacifica is not magically a good person after Northwest Mansion Mystery. She is still vain in later episodes. She is still rich. She still resents being upstaged. But she is no longer the same character. The bell does not work on her anymore. She is, for the first time, a person. A friend in the game. One more line from Northwest Mansion Mystery that fans love. Dipper, after Pacifica makes her choice. After she throws open the gates, after the ghost is freed, hands her a small can of silly string, the two of them spray it all over the priceless white carpets her mother loves. They laugh. They trash the room together. It is one of the few scenes in the show where Dipper and Pacifica are unambiguously friends. No bickering, no insults. Just two kids covered in pink string, laughing in a ruined ballroom. Fans have shipped them based on this scene alone for over a decade. The ship is called Dipsifica, and as one source notes, in Season 2 of Amphibia, an Easter egg called Dipsifica, 4 life appeared. The fandom has built a small religion around this exact carpet-trashing moment. The line Dipper says, gently before they start spraying, is the one fan's sight as the real moment they understood that Pacifica had changed. He tells her, almost surprised at himself, that maybe she is not exactly like her parents after all, that maybe in this moment, she is whoever she decides to be. The fandom turns this into the thesis of Pacifica's character. You are not your family. You are not your father's bell. You are not your ancestors' sins. You are the choice you make at the end of the ballroom. Mabel, in a way, makes the same kind of choice in the portal basement. Stan made it too, when he was disowned by Philbrick and decided to come back for his brother anyway. Pacifica is just one more Pines-adjacent person learning the same lesson. You can be a different link in the chain than the one the chain wants you to be. Time to move on to a different section of the museum. Before we close this chunk, we need to pause on a quote that is not delivered by any of the main cast. It is delivered by Wax Larry King. The wax figure of Larry King, voiced by the actual Larry King, who in the Headhunters episode escapes into the vents after the rest of the wax figures are melted. He is the lone survivor. The line he leaves the kids with, the one fans have made into a t-shirt joke over the years, is the one he mutters before scuttling away into the wall. Llamas are nature's greatest warriors. Fans cherish this line because it is a complete non sequitur. It has nothing to do with anything. It is delivered with full conviction by a celebrity guest star playing a wax head. And it is the kind of thing the show tosses out casually that the fandom then carries for 10 years like a precious gem. There is a forum thread, linked above, where fans agree this is one of the all-time random Gravity Falls quotes, the kind of thing you say to your friends at 2 a.m. when nothing else is funny anymore. Gravity Falls is full of these, lines that mean nothing and somehow live forever. Lines about llamas, lines about emergency salami, lines about Jefferson and crate-shaped boxes, lines from a president named Quentin Tremblay who jumped through a wall on a horse. We're going to spend a moment with a few of these in the next chunk, because the fandom would never forgive us for skipping the absurd middle. But before we get to Quentin Tremblay, we have to deal with the line that the tearjerker page on TV Tropes flags as one of the highest-ranked emotional moments in the entire show. The line that comes from the unicorn, the line that comes from Mabel, finally losing her temper. Mabel is not pure of heart. In the last Mabelcorn, Mabel is sent to find unicorn hair. The hair is needed to protect the mystery shack from Bill. The unicorn she finds is named Celesta Belbithabel. The unicorn is rude. The unicorn is dismissive. The unicorn tells Mabel she cannot have any hair because Mabel, the unicorn, says is not pure of heart. Mabel breaks. The fandom uses this as the line that finally lets Mabel be angry. Her lesson in the last Mabelcorn is revealed through a fit of rage on her part. Mabel got angry and violent, and the fans loved it. She goes around town trying to be good enough. She gives away her sweater. She helps strangers. She apologizes for old wrongs. And Celestabel Bethabel every time finds a new reason to say no. Mabel is not pure enough. Mabel is too selfish. Mabel is too loud. And then the unicorn admits, finally, that the pure of heart test is a scam. It was never real. It was just a way for unicorns to keep humans from bothering them. Mabel could have been a saint, and the unicorn still would have said no. Mabel, in the line fans love most, finally responds in the way the audience has wanted her to respond for the entire episode. She punches the unicorn in the face. The lesson Mabel takes from this is, in some ways, the lesson the show keeps teaching her. Mabel cannot be perfect. Mabel cannot be pure of heart. Mabel is selfish and loud and silly and impulsive and chaotic and full of love, and that is what she is. And the people who love her are the people who love her for it, not in spite of it. The unicorn was lying. The standard does not exist. There is no purity test. There is only the choice to keep loving the messy people around you, including the messy person who is yourself. The fandom calls this Mabel's first real moral lesson of the show. Not the early lessons about boys or about competing with Dipper. The one in the last Mabelcorn. The one where the standard is fake. Mabel is going to keep failing this fake standard for the rest of the series. She is going to give Bill the rift in the next big episode. She is going to lose her temper in the bubble. She is going to be wrong repeatedly in ways she cannot fix. And she is going to be loved anyway. The fandom argues in long Tumblr posts that get reblogged for years that this is the most generous thing the show ever does for its co-protagonist. It lets Mabel stay Mabel. It lets her stop pretending to be a saint. It lets the people who love her decide to love her anyway. We will see this play out in the very next episode arc when the rift breaks and the apocalypse begins, and Mabel will have to face the consequences of being herself in a world that was about to need her to be someone else. By Jefferson, we seem to be trapped in some sort of crate-shaped box. Before we keep walking through the heartbreak, the fandom would never forgive us if we skipped Quentin Tremblay. Quentin Tremblay is technically the 8th-and-a-half president of the United States. He was so insane the government scratched him from the history books. He rode a horse off a cliff. He appointed 6 babies to the Supreme Court. He declared war on pancakes. And an irrational treasure. He is preserved in a peanut brittle cocoon under the town of Gravity Falls. When Dipper and Mabel free him, his first lines are nonsense. The fandom has every one of them memorized. By Jefferson. We seem to be trapped in some sort of crate-shaped box. Mabel helpfully replies, "It's a crate, Mr. President." Quentin spots a hole. He gestures grandly. How about that hole? Mabel says, "We will leap through it." They do not fit. They don't fit at all. The crate is too small. So Quentin says the line fans repeat at each other every time they fail at anything in life. Well, we didn't fit through the hole. Let's rebuild the box and try again. Dipper, panicking, tries to suggest a faster method. We gotta get out of here. Quentin nods, delighted, also good. Fans love this character because he is the show at its most committed to absurdity. The episode about him is a half hour of pure historical chaos. He once ate a salamander and jumped out a window. He once declared in a campaign speech that wood was his age-old enemy. He once mistook a sandwich for his third wife, a woman named Sandy. I ate a salamander and jumped out the window. Wood, my age-old enemy. Is that my third wife, Sandy? These lines have nothing to do with the lore. They have nothing to do with Bill. They have nothing to do with the Pines family arc. They are pure decoration, and the fandom treasures them because they are proof of what the show could afford to do. When you have a writer's room full of people who love wordplay and history and weird old men, you get a Quentin Tremblay episode. You get a president who exists only to make 10-year-old fans laugh, and then quote him to their friends for the rest of their lives. Emergency salami. In the same family of throwaway lines, fans treasure the Mabel line from Gravity Falls quotes, where Seuss produces a meat product at the perfect moment. Mabel, awed, looks at him and announces, "Emergency salami?" Seuss, my respect for you has grown. Fans use this as a benchmark phrase. Anytime someone produces something useful at the right time, the fandom answers, "Emergency salami." It has become a unit of measurement for unexpected preparation. It is also a way fans signal to each other that they grew up on this show. If you say "emergency salami" and the person across from you grins, you have found a Gravity Falls fan. Is life just some horrific joke without a punchline? We need to pause for the line fans use as the darkest single thing Stan ever says in front of the kids. It comes from a short called Truth Ache. He is wearing magic truth dentures. He is watching TV with Dipper and Mabel, and the dentures force him to speak the truth out loud. Sometimes I think, is this all there is? Is life just some horrific joke without a punchline? That we're all just biding our time until the sweet, sweet release of death. The fandom has clipped this scene 1,000 times. The kids stare at him. He stares at the television. The truth dentures keep working. The audience laughs. The audience also goes quiet. Because Stan is a man who has spent 30 years alone in a basement building a machine to bring back his brother, lying to a town, watching the calendar tick. And the truth, when the dentures pull it out of him, is despair. Fans use this line as evidence for one of the running arguments in the fandom. The argument is whether Grunkle Stan is secretly one of the most depressed protagonists in any animated show ever made. The case for that argument is built out of moments like this one. The moments where the show lets the mask slip just long enough for us to see what is under it. He is not actually a happy man. He is a man who has decided to be loud and funny, so the loneliness will not eat him alive. The truth dentures show us the gap. The truth dentures also show us why he loves these kids so much. They are finally somebody to talk to. Finally, a good reason to punch a teenager in the face. We can keep this section light too. The fandom loves the Stan line from Gravity Falls quotes, the one he delivers during a moment of pure, unrestrained joy. Finally, a good reason to punch a teenager in the face. Fans pull this out as another peak Stan moment. It is a line that says, very plainly, that Stan has been wanting to punch a teenager for years and has just been waiting for an excuse. The fact that he treats this as a long-running personal desire is the joke. The fact that he is delivering it on a Disney show is the bigger joke. Stan is a character built out of these one-liners. The fandom has been collecting them for over a decade. A favorite from a different episode is when Stan is talking to himself and admits those cannibals are onto something. I taste delicious. He is eating waffles that look like his own face. He is the kind of man who would actually try a waffle of his own face and then complain that it tasted too good. The fandom has decided this is one of the most Stan things he ever says. Sounds like something a responsible parent wouldn't want you doing. The Stan philosophy of guardianship, fans will tell you, is summed up in one repeated structure. He keeps using the same logic over and over again in episode after episode. Whenever Dipper or Mabel propose something dangerous, Stan looks at them, nods, and arrives at the same answer. Sounds like something a responsible parent wouldn't want you doing. Good thing I'm an uncle. The fandom loves this line specifically because it is technically a moral failure. Stan is admitting out loud that he knows better. He knows the responsible thing is to stop them, and he is choosing on purpose to be the unsafe option. He is choosing to let them have the summer. He is choosing to send them after monsters with axes and grappling hooks. And here's what the fandom has noticed. By the end of the show, this is the thing the twins are grateful for. Their parents shipped them to Oregon for fresh air. Stan let them have an adventure. Stan let them save a town. Stan let them stop an apocalypse. The responsible parent would have grounded them. The uncle let them grow up. The fandom argues in long essays that Stan's deeply irresponsible style of guardianship is, in fact, exactly the thing that allowed the twins to become the people who could save the world. He trusted them with weapons and woods. They came back better people. That math, the fandom argues, is the real math of the show. The Dungeons and Dungeons of Ford Pines. We need to walk into Ford now in a different way than we have been walking. Because Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons is the episode where the fandom finally sees Ford and Dipper bond. And the line they bond on is, of all things, a tabletop role-playing game. Ford pulls out his old dice from college. He pulls out the old game book. He starts setting up a campaign in the basement. And the look on Dipper's face, fans will tell you, is one of the most pure expressions of joy the show ever animates. Dipper has spent his entire life being the weird smart kid in school who loved this kind of game. Ford is the adult who loves it too. Ford has in fact been like Dipper since he was 12. The fandom rates this scene as one of the most touching mentor moments in animated TV because it is built entirely out of two nerds being nerds in a basement. The line Ford drops, almost to himself, when he realizes how much he and Dipper share, is the one fans replay over and over. He looks at Dipper and tells him that he never had a friend who really got him. He had Stan, briefly. He lost Stan. He had McGucket, briefly. He lost McGucket. He had Bill, who turned out to never have been a friend at all. And here, in this 12-year-old boy with the pine tree hat, is the first person in 50 years who actually gets him. Ford asks Dipper to be his apprentice. The fandom calls this the first half of the gut punch, because Ford is in this moment offering Dipper the thing Dipper has wanted his entire life. A mentor? A purpose? A future? A reason for everything weird about him to actually matter. The second half of the gut punch comes in Dipper and Mabel versus the future. When Dipper has to choose, Ford has offered him a lifetime apprenticeship. Stay in Gravity Falls, study with Ford, leave Mabel behind, become a scientist of the strange, and Mabel, who has overheard the offer, who is in the woods alone, who has just learned that her best friends will not be at her 13th birthday party, who has just learned that high school is a nightmare, who has just learned that summer is ending whether she likes it or not, has the kind of breakdown the fandom has been calling the worst moment of the series for 10 years. Sweater Town. When Mabel breaks, she pulls her sweater up over her head. The fandom calls this Sweater Town. It is her oldest coping mechanism. When she cannot handle the world, she retreats into a cotton dome of her own design. She has done it in earlier episodes as a joke. In Dipper and Mabel versus the Future, she does it for real. Bill finds her in the woods. He has been waiting for this moment for the entire series. He appears as a sympathetic friend. He calls himself Bildin. He pretends to be a sweet old man helping a sad girl, and he offers her a way to stop the future from coming, a way to make the summer last forever. He hands her the rift. He tells her it will fix everything. He does not tell her that it is the literal crack in reality that he has been waiting 30 years to detonate. Mabel, in her grief, takes it. Fans have been arguing for over a decade about how much blame Mabel deserves for the apocalypse. The answer the show gives is, in some ways, a question. The Tumblr essay that fans cite the most argues that everything Mabel does is out of love. Why did she give Bill the rift? because she thought it meant more time spent with her brother? That is the line fans hold on to. Mabel did not start the apocalypse out of cruelty. She started it out of love. She started it because she was terrified that Dipper was about to leave her. That summer was about to end. That her childhood was about to be over. And the triangle, the trillion-year-old triangle who had been watching her family the whole time, knew exactly which fear to press. We will come back to Mabel's choice in a future chunk. We will come back to her sweater. We will come back to the moment in Mabeland when she stops hiding and steps back into the real world. But first, we have to walk through the moment that started the breakdown, the episode where Mabel realized that growing up was going to take everything from her. Whenever I see my friends, there's always one of them crying. This is a Mabel line that fans cite from late season 2, where Mabel is sitting with Stan during Dipper and Mabel versus the future. She is realizing that her friends will not be at her birthday party. She is realizing that Candy and Grenda have summer plans that do not include her. She is realizing that for the first time in her life, she is the one being left behind, not the one leaving. She tells Stan that everything she thought summer would feel like is gone. She tells him she does not understand why everyone is sad. She tells him she thought 13 was supposed to be magic. Stan, who has been 13, who has lived through every kind of disappointment, who has been the one being left behind by his own brother for 30 years, does the only thing he knows how to do. He sits with her. He puts his arm around her. He tells her in a voice fans rate as one of the gentlest he ever uses that nobody likes getting older. Fans treasure this scene because it is the only moment in the series where Stan really fully sees Mabel. He sees her not as the loud kid who barrels into his shack, not as Mabel the firecracker. He sees her as a tiny human who is about to have to do the thing every human does, which is grow up. And Stan, who has been doing it badly for 60 years, recognizes the look in her eyes. The look of a person realizing that nothing stays. The fandom returns to this scene a lot, especially when they talk about the moment they themselves understood the show was about growing up. Gravity Falls is technically about monsters, practically about siblings, spiritually about the end of summer. And every time you rewatch it, the scenes about the end of summer hit harder than the scenes about the monsters. Mabel under her sweater, Stan with his arm around her. The world about to end, the summer about to end, both endings somehow tied together. I don't want to grow up. Mabel says variations of this line throughout the bubble sequence in Weirdmageddon 2. Escape from reality. She has been kidnapped by Bill into a prison made of her own dreams. The prison is paradise. The prison is Mabeland. In Mabeland, no one ever ages. No one ever grows up. No one ever has to face high school. No one ever has to leave anyone. The forum discussion the fandom remembers most is, it's fairly understandable why she would prefer staying in the bubble land compared to reality. Given the end of Dipper and Mabel versus the future, but hiding away from it isn't the best solution. Mabel wouldn't really experience life that way. Plus, she needed that emotional reassurance from Dipper. She needed to know that they'll always be there for each other. The line Dipper says to her, the line that finally pulls her out of the bubble, is the one fans pull as the emotional pivot of the back half of the season. He tells her that growing up is scary. He tells her he is scared too. He tells her that whatever happens next, whatever high school looks like, whatever middle school does to them, they will face it together. Then they hug. Not the awkward sibling hug from the pilot. A different hug. Dipper and Mabel do the awkward sibling hug seen in Tourist Trapped. However, Mabel answers with sincere sibling hug before she hugs Dipper. This is the moment the fandom treasures most in the entire bubble sequence. The awkward sibling hug from the pilot was a joke. They were 12. They were uncomfortable. They tapped each other on the back in the gnome forest and called it bonding. The sincere sibling hug in Mabeland is the same gesture refused as a joke, a real hug. A hug that says, I'm scared too. A hug that says, I will not leave you for an apprenticeship. A hug that says, I will not stay in a prison forever just to keep you. The same arms in the same shape, 12 months apart, meaning two completely different things. The show is doing a thing here. The show is showing growth as a gesture, not a speech. The bubble bursts, Mabel comes out. Dipper turns down Ford's apprenticeship. The siblings go to fight Bill together. The decision they make in that bubble is in some ways, the reason the show ends well. If Mabel had stayed, the apocalypse would have won. If Dipper had said yes to Ford, the siblings would have been separated forever. The bubble was the trap. The sincere sibling hug was the answer. Fans, 10 years later, are still rewatching this scene. We will close the next chunk on the speech Dipper gives the survivors before they ride the Shacktron into battle. We will close on the moment Stan walks toward Bill with no fear in his eyes. We will close on the line Bill screams when he realizes finally that he is going to lose. But first, we have to walk through one more pause. We have to walk through a line that the fandom uses as the heart of the show. A line about the kids' parents. A line that explains kindly why these two children are spending the summer with a stranger in the first place. Our parents decided we could use some fresh air. We have to come back to this line. It is the line from the pilot. It is the line Dipper says in narration about how he and Mabel ended up in Gravity Falls in the first place. It all began when our parents decided we could use some fresh air. They shipped us up north to a sleepy town called Gravity Falls, Oregon, to stay at our great-uncle's place in the woods. The line is delivered as setup, as a one-sentence excuse for why the show is happening. But the fandom has noticed something specific about that line. Something they have been talking about for 10 years. The parents are never seen. They are never named. They are never given faces. They appear in the opening credits cipher of A Tale of Two Stans briefly as a baby in a flashback. Mabel and Dipper's mother is Stan and Ford's niece. That is all we get. The kids spend the entire summer in Oregon. Their parents do not visit. Their parents do not call. Their parents do not appear when Stan is arrested by federal agents. Their parents do not appear when the portal opens. Their parents do not appear when the apocalypse begins. The fandom has built an entire tradition of fan theory around the parents' absence. Some fans think the parents are deeply checked out. Some fans think the parents do not know about Bill. Some fans think the parents trust Stan more than they should. Some fans think the parents simply, quietly, did the thing parents in the show's universe do. They shipped the kids off and got back to their lives. What the line means in practice, fans will tell you, is that Stan is not technically the kids' guardian for one summer. He is, functionally, their parent. The man who has been treating them like adults. The man who has been letting them carry weapons. The man who has been feeding them sugar cereal and taking them on murder investigation road trips. The man who, when the universe nearly ended, begged Mabel to look into his eyes and trust him. The parents shipped them off for fresh air. They got a family. The fandom has been pointing this out for a decade. Some of them are gentle about it, some of them are not. The fan consensus seems to be that the parents are not bad people, just absent ones. The summer Dipper and Mabel spent in Oregon is the summer they accidentally got the family they were missing. The kids are the only family I have left. This is the line Stan says to Ford in A Tale of Two Stans. Ford has just told Stan to stay out of the basement, to give back the house, to give back the name, to keep Dipper and Mabel away from him. Stan agrees on one condition. You stay away from the kids. I don't want them in danger. 'Cause as far as I'm concerned, they're the only family I have left. Fans cite this line every time the argument comes up about who is the real protagonist of Gravity Falls. Some fans say it's Dipper. Some fans say it's Mabel. Some fans say it's the twins together. The argument the fandom keeps coming back to, the one this line supports, is that the real protagonist is Stan. He is the one with the longest arc. He is the one with the most secrets. He is the one whose love for his family is doing the heaviest lifting in the entire show. The line is also, fans note, almost unbearably sad if you sit with it. Stan has a brother who just refused to thank him. Stan had a wife he is no longer with. Stan had parents who threw him out. Stan had cousins who probably never called. The kids are the only family I have left. He says it casually. He says it like it is a fact, and it is a fact. Two great niece and nephew-shaped children showed up at his door at the start of the summer, and they are, by his accounting, all he has. Ford hears this. Ford does not respond well. Ford spends most of the next several episodes trying to take Dipper away from Stan, by accident more than on purpose, by being the brilliant Uncle Stan never got to be. The brothers will fight over the kids in different ways for the rest of the season. The fight will only be settled in the finale, when Stan and Ford finally accept that they are, both of them, family. Plural family. family that includes a brother and 2 kids and a handyman in a green shirt. Suze is going to be the manager? We need to talk about Suze and Stan now, because their relationship is one of the quietest, deepest things in the show. The fandom calls Stan a father figure to Suze, because that is technically what he is. Suze's biological father walked out. Stan stepped in. Stan did not announce that he was stepping in. He just started giving Suze a paycheck and a place to be every day. And after 13 years, Suze started calling the Mystery Shack home. The line that fans pull out as the proof of this is in the very last episode, when Stan finally hands over the keys. In the closing minutes of Weirdmageddon 3, Take Back the Falls, after the world has been saved, after Bill has been erased from existence, after Stan has remembered who he is, the future of the Mystery Shack has to be settled. Stan and Ford are leaving. They are going to sail the world together. They are going to finally take that boat trip they planned when they were 10. The Mystery Shack needs a manager. Stan tells Suze that the place is his. Stan, now respected as a local hero, promotes his handyman Suze Ramirez to the manager of the Mystery Shack. And he is last seen fighting an anomaly at sea with Ford aboard a ship dubbed the Stan O'War II, in reference to a marooned ship they claimed for themselves as children. Fans treasure this moment because it is the show, very quietly, completing one of its longest arcs. Suze has been searching for a father his entire life. Stan, in handing him the shack, in handing him the title of Mr. Mystery, is also handing him the answer. You were always my kid, the gesture says. You were always going to inherit this. The Papa card is permanent. Suze cries. The fandom cries. Stan walks down to the dock with his brother. The 2 old men get on a boat together. The summer ends. I'll be watching you too, Dipper. We need one more line from Ford before we head into the finale. It's the line Ford drops in Dungeons, Dungeons, and More Dungeons. When he tells Dipper that he sees himself in him, he says gently that Dipper reminds him of who he used to be. Dipper, the smart kid who is constantly being told he is too much. Dipper, the kid who loves the journal because the journal is the first thing in his life that takes him seriously. The fandom rates this as one of the most generous mentor moments any animated show has ever produced. Ford is not pretending to like Dipper. Ford really likes Dipper. Ford recognizes him, and the recognition is what makes the offer of apprenticeship hurt so much because the offer is real. Ford really wants Dipper to come with him. Ford is not using Dipper. Ford genuinely thinks Dipper would have the best life of his life, studying with him forever. This is what makes Dipper's eventual no so meaningful. He turns down a life that is, on paper, exactly the life he always wanted. Adventure, mystery science, a mentor. He turns it down because Mabel comes first. He turns it down because the most important promise in his life is the one he made before the show ever started, the one no one needed him to make, the one he made just because Mabel was his sister. The line Dipper says to Ford to turn him down is, fans note, gentle. He does not yell at Ford. He does not curse him out. He just says that he cannot leave his sister. He says he is 12. He says he is not done being 12 yet. He says he is sorry. And Ford, who has been alone for 30 years, who has been chasing answers across the multiverse, who has never had a sibling at his side the way Dipper has Mabel, finally understands what he was asking Dipper to give up. He withdraws the offer. The fandom calls this Ford's quietest character growth. He never apologizes in words. He apologizes by letting Dipper go. When gravity falls and Earth becomes sky. We need to pivot now to the prophecy. The fandom has had this line tattooed on them for 10 years. It is the line Ford writes in Journal 3. It is the line that defines the danger of gravity falls. It is the line that Bill himself fulfills the second he steps through the rift. When gravity falls and Earth becomes sky, fear the beast with just one eye. Fans love this rhyme because it is the show being unapologetically ominous in a kid-friendly cadence. The rhyme reads like a nursery rhyme. The rhyme is also a warning of the apocalypse. When the town's gravity stops working, the rhyme says, the eye in the sky has arrived. The end has begun. The fandom has noticed that the rhyme also doubles as the town's name. Gravity falls. The phrase is literal. The phrase is the moment the rules of physics fail and Bill becomes physical. Ford figured out this rhyme decades before the events of the show. Ford wrote it in his journals to warn whoever read them next. The journals ended up in Dipper's hands. The rhyme came true on schedule. Some fans have noticed something else about the rhyme. Something subtle. Something the show never explicitly confirms. The rhyme talks about a beast with one eye. Bill has one eye, but there is also a small visual joke in the credits of one episode where a different one-eyed creature is shown briefly. The fandom has spent years debating whether the rhyme is specific to Bill or general to a category of demons. The debate has no resolution. The show, deliberately, never tells you. The mystery is part of the rhyme. The rhyme is part of the mystery. The fandom is part of both. AXOLOTL. Bill says this name twice in the show. He says it in Weirdmageddon 3, Take Back the Falls, in his final moments, as Stan punches him into oblivion. He spells it out in Latin letters in the air. He calls out to it. AXOLOTL. My time has come to burn. This is, fans will tell you, one of the most theorized single moments in the entire show. The axolotl is, according to the Book of Bill, and a poem hidden in the credits of one of the final episodes, a higher cosmic being. A god above the gods. A creature Bill knows by name. And in his last seconds, Bill is calling out to it, invoking a previous deal, hoping for resurrection. The fandom has built years of theory on top of this. Some fans believe the axolotl gave Bill a chance to come back in a different form, in a different shape, in a different season. Some fans believe the axolotl let Bill die. Some fans believe the axolotl is sleeping. Some fans believe the axolotl is, in fact, the reason Bill cannot fully be killed. The line AXOLOTL, my time has come to burn, is the line fans point to as the thread the show left dangling for fans to keep pulling. When the Book of Bill was released in 2024, the axolotl returned. It returned as a riddle. It returned as a hint. The fandom is still working on what it means. We are not going to spoil the book in detail here. We are only going to say that fans treat the axolotl line as proof that Gravity Falls was always going to leave one mystery unsolved on purpose. Mabel, please. We have to come back to the Mabel and Stan scene one more time. The portal countdown scene in Not What He Seems. The countdown is at 7. Stan has just told Mabel she is going to hear bad things about him. Dipper is screaming at Mabel to shut the portal down. Mabel is crying. The override button is right there. And Stan, voice cracking, says the line, Mabel, please. 2 words fans cite these as some of the most painful syllables Alex Hirsch has ever recorded as the character. Stan, the con man, the loud uncle, the man who would never admit weakness to a kid, is begging. He is begging a 12-year-old girl to believe in him. He is, in some way, begging the universe to give him this one win after 30 years of being the family disappointment. Mabel says, looking at him, voice tiny, Grunkle Stan, and then she lifts her hand. The countdown hits 5, and she says the 4 words that broke the fandom apart and put it back together. I trust you. Fans treasure these 4 words because they are, in some ways, the entire show in miniature. The whole point of Gravity Falls is that the kids learn slowly who to trust. They learn that the journal is a tool, not a god. They learn that some monsters are friends. They learn that some friends are monsters. They learn that Stan, who has been lying to them all summer, is also the man who would die for them. The whole show is a long road to those 4 words. And once Mabel says them, the universe doesn't end. Ford comes out of the portal. The show somehow finds its second half. The trust was the right call. The trust was always going to be the right call. The journal that told Dipper not to trust anyone was wrong on this one. The fandom carries this lesson with them. It is the lesson the show is built around. Trust the people who love you, even when the evidence is bad. You're a real wise guy, but you made one fatal mistake. The fandom has memorized this scene. We are at the final battle. The Zodiac Wheel has failed because Stan and Ford fought again. Bill has trapped them. Bill is going to torture Ford for the password to lift the shield. The shield, when lifted, will let Bill take Weirdmageddon worldwide. Ford tells Stan quietly that they need to switch. Stan and Ford are identical twins. They look the same. They can swap clothes. Ford will let Bill think he is going to give in. He will agree to let Bill into his mind. And what Bill will get instead is Stan's mind. Because the Pines brothers have decided that the only way to kill Bill is to wipe him out from inside a memory, and the memory has to belong to the man whose mind they are willing to burn. Stan agrees. Stan does not hesitate. Stan agrees because his brother is finally going to thank him by trusting him with this. They swap. Bill enters what he thinks is Ford's mind. The void is calm, the void is white. The door opens, and inside the door, instead of Ford, is Stan, sitting in his recliner, playing with his paddle ball, grinning. Haha, do a pretty good impression of my brother, don't I? Switched clothes, and no one could tell us apart. Welcome to my mind. Surprised you didn't recognize it. Fans rate this scene as the single best long con in animated TV. The entire run of the show, from the first frame, has been Stan pretending to be Ford. Stan has been using Ford's name for 30 years. Stan has been wearing Ford's clothes for 30 years. Stan is, in fact, the most experienced Ford impersonator alive. And the universe-ending demon, the trillion-year-old trickster, is the one who falls for the impersonation. The line is also the line where Bill, for the first time in the entire show, looks afraid. Bill Cipher, you're making a mistake. I'll give anything. Money, fame, riches, infinite power, your own galaxy. Just please. Fans love this moment because Bill is begging. The triangle is begging. The trillion-year-old demon who threatened to make children into corpses is, in his final seconds, offering bribes. He is offering Stan a galaxy. He is offering infinity. He is offering anything. He has watched a trillion lifespans of skin puppets, and he assumed they all wanted the same things: money, power, fame, galaxies. He has not understood, even now, what Stan actually wants. Stan wants his family. Stan does not need money. Stan does not need a galaxy. Stan is 60-something years old, and he has spent 30 years saving his brother and one summer, raising 2 twins, and his price has never been negotiable. Stan winds up. Stan grins. Stan delivers the line the fandom has tattooed on their arms, embroidered on patches, painted on canvases. The line the fandom shouts at watch parties. The line Alex Hirsch wrote for an old uncle who has been waiting his whole life to be the hero. You're a real wise guy, but you made one fatal mistake. You messed with my family. Stan punches Bill. Stan keeps punching Bill. The memory burns. The mind burns. Bill burns with it. The triangle screams. The triangle screams the axolotl name. The triangle finally breaks apart and crumbles into static. And inside Stan's mind, as the memory of the moment burns, Stan burns with it. He loses everything. He loses Ford. He loses Mabel. He loses Dipper. He loses Suze and Wendy and the Mystery Shack and the summer. He loses 30 years of Doomsday Device. He loses the brother he punched into the portal. He loses his own name. He sacrifices his mind to kill Bill. The fandom calls this the most generous thing any character has ever done in any Disney show. Stan is not just risking his life. Stan is risking everything that ever was inside his head. He is risking his memory. He is risking who he is. And he does it anyway because the alternative is letting Bill out into the world. The alternative is the apocalypse spreading. The alternative is his family losing. Stan messes with the trickster. Stan wins. Stan pays. We will pick up the pieces of Stan's mind in the next chunk. We will walk into the moment Mabel pulls out the scrapbook. We will walk into the moment the family stands in the burned down living room and tries to remind Stan who he is. But before we leave this chunk, we have to honor what Bill's final scream was actually saying. He was not just calling out to a cosmic god. He was naming his curse. He was admitting his loss. And he was reminding the audience that somewhere in the woods, there is still a statue of him with one outstretched hand, waiting for someone to take it. The credits of the finale show that statue. The fandom has been staring at it for 10 years. We are going to talk about that statue and what it means very soon. Grunkle Stan, I trust you. The scrapbook scene from Weirdmageddon 3, Take Back the Falls, is the scene the fandom rewatches when they want to cry. The credits scene of the entire series, the slow rebuild, the proof that family is the only currency that ever mattered. Stan is sitting in his recliner in the burned-out shack. Bill is gone. The town is rebuilding. The world is safe. But Stan does not remember any of them. He does not remember Ford. He does not remember Suze. He does not remember the twins. The memory burn took everything. The kids are devastated. They sit on the floor in front of him. They open the scrapbook. They start showing him pictures. Mabel narrates, Dipper and Mabel try to frantically remind Stan of the summer, but Stan can't remember it. And then Waddles, Mabel's pig, climbs into Stan's lap. Stan, without thinking, says the pig's name. As Waddles jumps onto Stan's lap, Stan involuntarily calls Waddles by his real name, even though he shouldn't remember it. Ford realizes the scrapbook is working as Stan also calls Suze by his name. Dipper and Mabel continue to show Stan more activities in the summer, showing him all of the things Stan did with them. Everyone begins to laugh, and even Stan joins in. As he puts his arms around the twins, fans treasure this scene because it is the show stating plainly that love survives the burn. Stan's mind is gone. The thinking part of him is gone, but the feeling part of him is still there. The part of him that loved Waddles, the part of him that loved Suze, the part of him that loved the twins. That part of him does not live in memory. That part of him lives somewhere deeper. And it is still there. It comes back the second a pig sits on him. The fandom has spent 10 years arguing about whether this is supernatural or just the way love actually works. The conclusion most fans reach is that the show is making a quiet, beautiful claim about identity. You're not just the facts you remember, you are also the people you love. And if the people you loved come back and stand in front of you and remind you, the love comes back too. The memory might be slower. The love is faster. Stan laughs. Stan puts his arms around the twins. Ford watches. The fandom watches. The shack somehow is okay. Between me and him, I'm not always the bad twin. The line Stan delivers when he finally joins the Zodiac Wheel in Take Back the Falls is the line that fans pull as the moment Stan stops being the bad twin in his own head. Ford finally thanks Stan. Stan finally joins the wheel and declares, between me and him, I'm not always the bad twin. But Ford declares that it is said him and me and bothers Stan by telling him that he must improve his grammar. Fans love this exchange because it is the show being merciful in two ways at once. First, Stan finally says out loud that he is not always the bad one. 60-something years of being told he was the bad twin, and he has finally said it back. Not always. Sometimes the word always is the lie his father told him. Stan finally takes that word away from his own self-talk. Second, Ford immediately corrects the grammar. The fight starts again. The two of them argue about a preposition while the world is ending, and the fight, this time, is funny. The fight this time is brotherly. The fight this time is the show telling us that these two old men are never going to fully stop being themselves, but they are at least going to be themselves together. The argument is also in the rules of the Zodiac. What gives Bill his opening? The Zodiac Wheel only works if the 10 people on it hold hands and stay still. The brothers argue, the hands break. Bill returns. Bill burns the wheel. Bill traps the family. The plan collapses. Fans have noticed something interesting about this. The plan that was supposed to work, the plan that involved magic symbols and 10 chosen people, the plan that Ford spent his life trying to figure out, fails. The plan that works is the simple, brutal one. Stan pretends to be Ford. Stan punches Bill. Stan burns. The official plan needed a wheel. The actual plan needed a brother willing to sacrifice his mind. The fandom argues that this is the show's quietest theme. Magic does not save Gravity Falls. Family does. The author of the journals. We need to close one more thread before we walk into Wendy's letter. The thread of the journal itself? For a long stretch of the show, the central mystery is who wrote the journals. Who is the author? Who has 6 fingers? Who left these books in the woods? The fandom theorized for years. Some fans thought it was McGucket. Some fans thought it was Stan. Some fans thought it was a time traveler. Some fans thought it was Dipper himself, sent back from the future. The answer, when it came, was the brother. The author was Ford. The author was the man who built the portal. The author was the man who lost his mind to Bill. The author was the man Stan spent 30 years trying to bring home. The line fans cite from the journal, the line that becomes the show's quietest motto, is the one printed inside the cover of Journal 3, Trust No One. The fandom has noted, Over and over, the irony of this. Trust no one is the warning Ford left for himself after Bill broke his life. Trust no one is the line Dipper memorizes early in the show. Trust no one is, on the surface, the rule the show is supposed to teach, and the show in the end refuses to teach it. The show teaches the opposite. The show teaches Mabel to trust Stan. The show teaches Stan to trust Ford. The show teaches Ford to trust Dipper. The show teaches Dipper to trust Mabel. The show teaches Soos to trust Melody. The show teaches Pacifica to trust Dipper. The show teaches the whole town eventually that the only way out of an apocalypse is to trust each other. Trust no one is the lie the journal tells you. Trust each other is the answer the show is building toward. The fandom loves this twist because it is the kind of twist most kids' shows never bother with. The motto is wrong on purpose. The motto is the thing the protagonist has to grow out of. By the time Dipper writes the last entry in the journal, he is the one telling people to trust each other. He is the new author. The old motto is gone. In the very last scene, fans note, Dipper does not even take the journal with him. The journal is destroyed during Weirdmageddon. Bill throws it into a fire. Ford does not rebuild it. Dipper does not need it anymore. The lesson that he was supposed to learn from it, he has learned. The book was the training. The summer was the test. The test is over. Hey, you mean a lot to me, man. Now we walk to the bus stop. The final scene of the show begins at the bus stop in the woods outside Gravity Falls. The twins' birthday has passed. Their 13th birthday. They are not 12 anymore. They are teenagers now. The summer is over. The bus is coming. They have to go back to California. Everyone has come to see them off. Stan, Ford, Soos, Melody. Pacifica, Robbie, Candy, Grenda. The townspeople, McGucket in his old McGucket Labs scientist coat, somehow rich now after the events of the show. Wendy is the last to walk up. Wendy, the 15-year-old Wendy who has been Dipper's friend and crush all summer. Wendy, who let him down kindly into the bunker when she explained, gently, that she was too old for him. Wendy, who has been a sister to him in a way Mabel could not be, because she is older. Because she is a friend by choice and not by birth. Wendy kneels next to him. She holds out her fist. She says the line fans tattoo on their arms. Wendy. Hey, you mean a lot to me, man? Dipper smiles and fist bumps her. You too. Wendy switches hats with Dipper. Something to remember me by. Gives Dipper a letter. Oh, and this. Read it the next time you miss Gravity Falls. Fans treasure this scene because it is the show. Finally giving Dipper the closure on the Wendy crush that he never could have gotten as a romance. Wendy is not his girlfriend. Wendy never will be. But Wendy is, in this moment, his friend, his real friend, the kind of friend you swap hats with at the end of a chapter. The kind of friend who hands you a letter to read when you miss her. She gives him her hat, the flannel-trimmed lumberjack hat she has worn the whole show. Dipper gives her the pine tree hat. The hat the show is named after. The hat that has been on Dipper's head from the pilot. The hat that has become the symbol of him. Fans have written about this moment for years. They have called it the most quietly devastating gesture in the finale. Dipper gives away the pine tree hat. He grows out of it. He keeps Wendy's hat instead. He keeps the older friend's gift. He carries it home. Read it the next time you miss Gravity Falls. The letter Wendy gives Dipper is signed by everyone. The fandom has paused on this letter, frame by frame, for over a decade. The signatures are all there. Soos, Stan, Ford, Melody, Pacifica, Candy, Grenda, Robbie, Tambry Lee, Nate Thompson. Even some of the townspeople, the whole summer is in the letter. Wendy tells him to read it when he misses the town. Wendy tells him to remember them all. Wendy tells him, in her own quiet way, that he is part of Gravity Falls now. He is one of them. He does not stop being a Gravity Falls person just because he is going home to California. The town is in him. The town is going to live in him. Fans use this letter as the spiritual closing of the show, even before the bus pulls away. Even before the final monologue, the letter is the official handing off of the town to the audience. Dipper and Mabel get to take the town with them on the bus. The audience gets to take the town with them when they grow up. The letter is, in a way, addressed to every fan watching at home. Open it the next time you miss us. Open it the next time you forget who you used to be. The fandom has, for 10 years, opened it. It's not on any maps. The bus pulls away. The townspeople wave. Stan, fez on his head, tears in his eyes, watches the bus disappear down the dirt road. Ford stands next to him. Suze stands next to them. The summer is over. Dipper, in voiceover, delivers the line that closes the show. The line the fandom has framed on bedroom walls. The line the fandom has read at graduations and at weddings and at funerals. The line that turns Gravity Falls from a TV show into a kind of myth. If you've ever taken a road trip through the Pacific Northwest, you've probably seen a bumper sticker for a place called Gravity Falls. It's not on any maps, and most people have never heard of it. Some people think it's a myth, but if you're curious, don't wait. Take a trip. Find it. It's out there, somewhere in the woods, waiting. Fans pause on the last word, waiting. The town is waiting. The fandom has not stopped pointing this out for 10 years. The town is waiting, not for the next season, because there is no next season. The show is over, the original run anyway, waiting for someone to come back. Waiting for new kids to find a journal, waiting for the audience to take the trip themselves in some sense, in some way. Waiting forever. The genius of the final line, fans will tell you, is that Dipper is addressing the viewer. Not Stan, not Mabel, the viewer. He is breaking the fourth wall in voiceover. He is telling you personally that the town exists somewhere. He is telling you to go look. He is telling you that the show is not the limit of the town. The town is bigger than the show. The town is out there, in the woods, waiting. There is a Disney Examiner essay that fans cite about the ending. Even the ending itself left me feeling choked up as Dipper and Mabel said goodbye to Gravity Falls and got onto the bus back to California. The piece talks about the slow walk Dipper and Mabel take to the bus, the hugs, the hats, the letter, the way every single character in the cast comes out of the woods to say goodbye, the way the show in its closing minutes refuses to be efficient, the way every farewell gets its own beat, the way the show, even in its final scene, will not stop loving its own characters out loud. Growing up is optional. We need to step back before we close the chunk and acknowledge the line that the fandom has elevated to the level of motto. It is not in the show in dialogue. It is built out of moments in the show. The fandom invented it. The fandom passed it around. The fandom turned it into a rallying cry. Growing up is optional. Fans say this to each other. Fans put this on coffee mugs. Fans use it as the through line for the whole series. The argument they make is that Gravity Falls is, secretly, a show against the idea that you have to give up your childhood when you turn 13. Mabel does not stop being weird. Dipper does not stop being curious. Stan does not stop being childish. Ford does not stop loving role-playing games. McGucket does not stop being a kid with a banjo. Suze does not stop being Suze. The entire cast, by the end of the show, is allowed to keep the parts of themselves that the world tries to throw away. The line is fan-made, not canon, but fans treat it as canon. The fandom has decided collectively that this is the lesson the show was teaching. Growing up does not mean killing the kid you used to be. Growing up means carrying the kid forward into harder rooms. This is why Mabel was allowed to stay loud. This is why Dipper was allowed to stay curious. This is why Stan, in the very last scene, gets to sail the world with his brother like they planned when they were 10. The Stan O-War 2 in the bay. The two old men climbing onto the boat. The dream they had at age 10, finally happening at age 60-something. Growing up was, in the end, optional. They took the boat anyway. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but whatever it is, I'm glad we'll be facing it together. This is the line that closes the emotional core of the show. The line Dipper says to Mabel in Weirdmageddon 2 when he turns down Ford's apprenticeship. The line fans pull out as the soul of the Dipper and Mabel arc. I don't know what's gonna happen in the future, but whatever it is, I'm glad we'll be facing it together. Fans cite this as the answer to everything. Mabel has been terrified of growing up. Mabel has been terrified of high school. Mabel has been terrified of Dipper leaving. Mabel has been terrified of the bubble bursting. And Dipper, who has just turned down the offer of his lifetime, who has just chosen his sister over a mentor he loved, says the thing she needed to hear. Whatever happens, we are going to face it together. This is the line that breaks the bubble. This is the line that pulls Mabel back into the real world. This is the line that fans argue is the line the show was always building to. The line that makes Mabel's earlier mistake, giving Bill the rift, redeemable. She gave the rift away because she was afraid Dipper was leaving. Dipper says he is not leaving. The fear that started the apocalypse is finally answered. Mabel can come home now. The bubble can burst. The siblings can fight Bill together. The fandom rates this as the moment the central love story of the show is sealed. The love story is not Dipper and Wendy. The love story is not Mabel and any of her crushes. The love story is the twins. It always was. The whole show is two siblings learning to love each other on purpose after years of loving each other on autopilot. Bear-O and the other quiet lines. We are going to take one moment of relief before the final chunk. The fandom has a soft spot for the tiny, weird, beautiful Mabel lines that nobody else in the show would say. The ones that are pure Mabel. The ones the fandom pulls out at random because they make them happy. The line from Tourist Trapped, where Mabel announces, "And I brought Bear-O, my adorable childhood puppet." The puppet is a stitched-together monstrosity with too many teeth. It looks more like a curse than a toy. And Mabel, beaming, calls it adorable. The line from The Inconveniencing, where Mabel, hyped on Smile Dip, hallucinates a kingdom of unicorns and rainbow horses, and screams at the top of her lungs. The line from Suze and the Real Girl, where Mabel, completely without irony, declares that she is going to be the best human she can be. She says this while wearing a sweater with a piece of toast on it. She is 12, she means it. The line in Sock Opera where Mabel, drunk on her own play, dressed as Puppet Stan, walks across the stage and announces, "I'm Puppet Stan." The voice she uses is, fans note, the exact same voice Stan uses when his voice is modulated by helium. The fandom cites this as proof that Mabel has been studying her great-uncle for the entire summer, paying attention to every weird sound he makes, building him into her bones. These tiny moments are why the fandom calls Mabel one of the most lived-in characters in animation. The big quotes get tattooed, the tiny quotes get whispered. Both kinds make her real. The fandom has, after a decade, decided that Mabel is the soul of Gravity Falls in a way nobody else is. Stan is the heart. Dipper is the mind. Ford is the memory. Suze is the kindness. Wendy is the steadiness. McGucket is the regret. Bill is the wound, but Mabel is the soul. Mabel is the reason the show is loud and bright and unhinged and sweet. Mabel is the reason the show has stayed lovable. Mabel is the reason Bill could not win. The 30-year demon could not understand what a 12-year-old in a sweater was willing to do for her brother. The skin puppet beat him because the skin puppet loved on purpose. We have one chunk left. We have the statue in the woods. We have the cipher in the credits. We have the very last quotes. The fandom will not let die. We have to talk about the Book of Bill. We have to talk about why the fandom has refused to put the show down for 10 years. We have to walk out of the museum slowly and lock the door behind us. The last chunk is coming. The statue in the woods. The credits of Weirdmageddon 3. Take Back the Falls roll. The bus has pulled away. The town is rebuilding. The Pines brothers are sailing somewhere off the coast. And then in the very last frame, the show ever gave its fans, a single image appears. A stone statue in the woods, half buried in moss, covered in leaves. The shape of a triangle, one eye, a top hat, a bow tie, one outstretched hand, frozen in the gesture of a deal. The hand is waiting for someone to take it. The fandom has stared at this frame for over a decade. After the closing credits of this episode, a picture of Bill Cipher in a graveyard is shown. There is no dialogue in this frame. There is no line. There is no spoken quote at all. And yet, fans treat this image as one of the most important quotes the show ever gave them. It is the visual equivalent of Bill's final words. AXOLOTL. My time has come to burn. The statue is the burning frozen. The statue is the question frozen. Fans have asked themselves for 10 years, what would happen if someone took the hand? The show never tells you. The show ends on the question. The fandom never lets go of the question. When the Book of Bill dropped in 2024, the question got bigger. The fandom has been pulling at the new threads ever since. We are not going to spoil that book in detail here. We are only going to say that the statue is not nothing. The statue, as the fandom has been arguing for a decade, was a promise. The promise was that Bill, in some form, is still in the woods, still waiting, still watching, still in your nightmares. We were warned. McGucket warned us. Ford warned us. Bill warned us. Himself. We'll meet again. Don't know where. Don't know when. Oh, I know we'll meet again some sunny day. A triangle with no friends and a boy with a hat. We need to close on Bill, because Bill is the line the fandom can never fully get out of its head. The villain who fans will tell you is the best written villain in modern animation, full stop. The fan argument for this is built out of specifics. Bill is funny. Bill is terrifying. Bill is theatrical. Bill is petty. Bill is ancient. Bill is, somehow, sometimes, almost likable. He is the only Disney villain who could honestly carry the line. Pain is hilarious, and have the show treat it as character development. He is the only Disney villain who got his own apocalypse arc that ran for 4 hours of screen time. He is the only Disney villain whose name fans 10 years later still tattoo on their arms in cipher. The fandom has parsed every Bill line until the lines have started parsing them back. They notice things. They notice that Bill never lies, technically. He bends the truth. He omits the truth. He twists the deal, but he does not strictly lie. They notice that Bill loves humans in his own gross way, the way a child loves an ant farm. They notice that Bill is, in some ways, the loneliest character in the show, a being from a dead dimension who has spent 1 trillion years trying to find someone to play with. The quote fans pull as the saddest single Bill line, the one that almost makes you feel for him for half a second, before you remember he tortures children, is the one from his confrontation with Ford in The Last Mabelcorn. Oh, I'm here. I'm finally here. Look at this place. A perfect, calm, orderly void. Gotta hand it to you, Ford. You really know how to clear your, mind. Bill is delighted to be back inside a human head. Bill is in his own demonic way happy. Bill misses Ford. Bill misses having a friend. He hides this under contempt. He hides this under threats. He hides this under cruelty. But fans have noticed, Bill is a creature that wanted a friend in the third dimension, and chose, of all people, Ford Pines. And when Ford figured out the truth and shut the door, Bill spent 30 years trying to claw his way back to it. Some fans argue that this is one of the most tragic friendship gone wrong stories ever told in a cartoon. Bill is a monster. Bill is also a being who wanted to be loved. He could not figure out how to be loved without devouring the person who tried to love him. He could not figure out the difference between friendship and possession. He could not figure out the difference between play and torture. Pain was hilarious. Love was a deal. This is in the end what fans take from him. Bill Cipher is, at his core, the alternative to Stan. Stan is a man who has been told his whole life that he is the bad twin, and who has refused, on purpose, to become a bad person. Bill is a creature who was always going to be evil, and who decided on purpose to make that evil charming. The show puts them in the same memory at the end. The show puts Stan inside a mind where Bill is also trapped. The show lets Stan win because Stan loves on purpose, and Bill, after 1 trillion years, never learned how. A sleepy town. We have walked through 40 episodes. We have walked through pilots and bubbles and basements. We have walked through mystery twins and wax figures and unicorns and gnomes. We have walked through portals and prophecies and a statue in the woods. We have walked through a Pines family that started as 4 broken people and ended as 5. We have walked through a town that should never have existed, and a fandom that has refused to leave it for over a decade. The reason fans cannot get these quotes out of their heads in the end is not because the lines are clever. The lines are clever, but cleverness is cheap. There are 1,000 shows with clever lines. The reason these quotes live forever, the fandom will tell you, is because the show meant them, everyone. The show meant the gold-buying buy. The show meant the avenge me. The show meant the hot Belgian waffles. The show meant the I trust you. The show meant the Dipperwood. The show meant the look into my eyes, Mabel. The show meant the ya messed with my family. The show meant the it's out there, somewhere in the woods, waiting. The show meant a sleepy town. The first line of the show called Gravity Falls a sleepy town, and Dipper, the boy who said it, did not yet know that he was about to find a hand with 6 fingers in the woods, did not yet know that there was a portal under the gift shop, did not yet know that his great-uncle was not his great-uncle, did not yet know that the town was, in fact, the loudest place in any universe his family had ever been to. But here's the thing the fandom has noticed about that opening line. After watching the show 10 times, after watching it 20 times, after watching it for a decade, the town really is sleepy? The town really does sleep. The townspeople have in fact been sleeping for 150 years. The Society of the Blind Eye has been actively making them sleep. McGucket built the gun that puts them to sleep. The whole town is a town that has, for generations, chosen to forget its own weirdness so it could feel normal. Dipper does not put the town to sleep. Dipper wakes the town up. Dipper and Mabel and Stan and Ford and Soos and Wendy and McGucket and Pacifica and a pig named Waddles wake the town up. The memory gun gets destroyed. The townspeople get their memories back. The Society of the Blind Eye gets disbanded. The town stops forgetting. This is what fans mean when they say the show is about something. The show is about a town that decided to wake up. The show is about a family that decided to remember. The show is about a kid in a pine tree hat who wrote everything down so that nobody else would have to forget. The show is about the bumper sticker on the highway. The bumper sticker that, against all odds, has not been taken down. The bumper sticker that says, very simply, that the town is real and that if you want to find it, you can. The quotes, the fandom still whispers. We are going to leave you, finally, with the last few lines fans whisper to each other when they cannot sleep. The lines that have lived rent-free in their heads for 10 years. The lines we did not get to talk about in their own section. The lines we did not give a chapter to. The lines that fans always sneak into the comments on every list. The greatest hits we have not yet hit. Stand to the kids in their first week, sizing them up at the breakfast table, calling them by names he made up. Doofus, sweetheart. The kid with the question mark on his shirt. Fans love these throwaway nicknames because they are the show's way of making Stan instantly real. The nicknames are how a man with no children of his own learns to call children by something other than their names. Mabel, sometime around mid-season 1, declaring that she is going to make summer weird and awesome. Fans treat this as her mission statement. She does both. The summer becomes weird. The summer becomes awesome. The summer ends. The mission was a success. Dipper at the start of Tourist Trapped, before he knows what is going to happen to him, declaring quietly that he is having a hard time getting used to his new surroundings. Fans return to this line whenever they are starting something new in their own lives. A new city, a new job, a new chapter. Dipper got used to Gravity Falls in the end. The fandom takes the small comfort of that. Soos, just before he saves the day in any number of episodes, muttering, "Life is too short to take everything seriously." Fans use this as a coping mechanism. Soos says it like a prayer. The fandom prays along. Wendy casual mid-shift at the Mystery Shack, telling Dipper in some quiet moment to relax, to take a breath, to remember that he is 12. Fans cite the spirit of Wendy as the calmest voice in the show. She is the older sister Mabel could not be, because Mabel is the same age as Dipper. Wendy is the friend who can see what Dipper cannot. Wendy is the one who tells him, gently, that the future will arrive on its own schedule. Ford, late in season 2, looking at Dipper and admitting, almost shy, that he is glad he is not alone anymore. The line is not a famous one. The fandom has memorized it anyway. Ford does not say this kind of thing easily. Ford has spent 30 years on the other side of a portal, talking to himself. The fact that he can say the words at all, by the end of the show, is the largest character growth in the cast. The fandom cites it as evidence that the apocalypse healed something in him that solitude never could. Pacifica in Northwest Mansion Mystery, after she has thrown open the gates of her family mansion, after she has decided to be different from her father, looking at Dipper, half embarrassed, and admitting that she is glad he was there. Fans cite this small line as proof that Pacifica was, secretly, the show's quietest redemption story. She did not need a speech. She just needed someone to tell her she could be different. Dipper did. She listened. She changed. And finally, fans will tell you the line that is technically not a line. The line the show puts in the air between every other line. The line that all the dialogue exists to circle around. The line that Dipper writes at the very end of his journal in his own hand, in the way the fandom has been studying for 10 years. Trust the people who love you. The official version of the line is trust no one. The line, Ford writes, the line printed on every cover. The line the fandom tattoos as a joke, but the line the show is teaching. The line every Pines, every Suze, every Wendy, every Pacifica, every McGucket eventually arrives at is the opposite. Trust no one is the warning. Trust the people who love you is the answer. The journal teaches the warning. The show teaches the answer. The fandom carries both. Closing the door of the Mystery Shack, this is, in the end, why the fandom cannot stop quoting Gravity Falls. Because Gravity Falls is, in the end, a show about quoting. It is a show about people who love each other learning how to say it out loud. It is a show about a brother saying, I trust you to a sister, and a sister saying Dipper would to a demon, and an uncle saying, you mean a lot to me, man to a kid on a bus, and an old man saying, ya, messed with my family to a god. The fandom has been quoting these lines for over a decade because the lines were the love. The lines were how the characters told each other they were not alone. The lines were how the show told its viewers they were not alone either. The lines were how a kid in a pine tree hat wrote everything down so nobody else would have to forget. And so, when fans cannot sleep, when fans are sad, when fans are scared, when fans are far from home, when fans are about to start their own 13th year, or 30th year, or 60th year, they reach for these lines. They reach for them the way Stan reached for the scrapbook. The lines come back. The love comes back. The town comes back. There is a bumper sticker. There is a journal. There is a sock with eyes. There is a triangle in the moss. There is a great uncle in a fez. There is a girl in a sweater. There's a boy in a hat. There is a hand with 6 fingers reaching out of the dark for a brother. There is an apocalypse and a recliner and a paddle ball and a punch. There is a town. It is not on any maps. Most people have never heard of it. Some people think it's a myth, but if you're curious, if you have come this far, if you have stayed awake through all 9 chunks of this walk, the town is still there. Take a trip. Find it. It's out there, somewhere in the woods, waiting. Drop a comment below with the Gravity Falls quote that lives rent-free in your own head. We will read every single one of them. And if you fell asleep before the end, that is okay too. The town will be here whenever you wake up.